Snack time!
Hydrate or dihydrate?
should be all set up now. Wonderful. Mic's going. Everyone can hear me. Welcome in, False Fairy, and thank you for the follow. Oh, I'm happy that you can catch one too. Let's see. Welcome back, everyone. This is Vexing Cat, your local tiger librarian. We're returning to the poetical work of Oscar Wilde. We are starting with Flower of Love section. There are a couple of Greek names in Greek letters that I will not be able to read the titles of these poems, but the poems themselves have been translated into English. Whether or not I still butcher the names of things, I don't know. But we'll be wrapping up with I believe it's the poem called The Reading of Jail, which isn't one of his more popular works, as I was informed today discussing the poem. I am all ready to go. I've got my coffee, I have my water, and I have biscuits. And I do mean biscuits in the British colloquial term, not in the American tasty, flaky pastry of butter. But yeah, they are the Biscoff cookies. Delicious. As a wonderful snack. So we'll start from the top and say hello and thank you, because a lot happened while I was trying to get ready for this today. So at the top, we've got Almontis, thank you for being here. Bone Collar, thank you for resubscribing for 10 months. 10 months. That's incredible. Yes, I am hydrated. Yes, I have snacked. Jules, it's always great to have you here. Ken Arashi, I hope the soothing tones will make the shark happy. Saren, it's so thank you for the head pats. Welcome in, Saren.
Hydrate or dihydrate.
Yep, I will stay hydrated. No worries. And then False Fairy, Lasada, always great to see you. Do we have any other hiding people in the corners? Okay, stretching. I will stretch. Big stretch. Big stretch. Oh, yeah. We've got hiding in the background, then we've got Cooks, we've got Fish 2 F Justice, so welcome in. Kintrin Valgrich, another amazing booktuber reader here on Twitch. Neftarath the Lorekeeper, who is arguably probably my Oshi of all things reading and inspiring creator here on Twitch. If you guys haven't checked them out before, I highly recommend it. Just Stacked House and Yuki. Yes, one of my gen mates. So we've got Ken, we've got Yuki here. Thank you both for stopping in and spending time with me. Poetry should be good today, I think. I have to read, so this is part 4, and there will be a 5th part because there's still quite a bit of poems left to read. But we're gonna get through around 60-ish pages today, and then we will we'll finish the reading of jail poetry, and then I think it's like the unsworn section. Hold on, let me look at this. Pages, it's right around 3 69, and you were here. That is correct. Yeah, the Ballad of Reading's Jail is going to be the long one, but there's multiple sections in that I can kind of break it up. Just uncollected poems is so in that's about 60 pages, right around there is where we'll stop after the Ballad of Reading's Jail, which is spelled very strangely, by the way. Okay. We've got our book, we've got our listeners, we have everything that we need to get this off the road here, so let's go. So this section is titled The Flower of Love. This one is titled, if memory serves, it was Galapagos Epic. I don't know. It's in Greek letters, and I mean that not in the I guess regular alphabet, but like sigma, gamma, etc., etc. Greek alphabet. I know I don't speak Greek. Hi, Sina, welcome in. Yeah, I'm not even gonna begin to try to phonetically figure that out. Yeah, lambda, sigma, gamma, etc., etc. Omega's in there, I think, and zeta. Yes, unfortunately, I do not speak Greek letters. I don't speak Greek either. I don't know. There's languages that I've been learning, but Greek is not on that list as of yet. Maybe in the future, because it'd be amazing to be able to read poetry and stories in other languages. An Omegaverse reference. No? Maybe. I don't know. Probably not. At least not intentionally. So this one is from The Flower. Okay. Galapagos Epic, I believe. Sweet, I blame you, not for mine the fault was. Had I not been made of common clay, I had climbed the higher heights unclimbed yet, seen the fuller air, the larger day. If academia books have taught me anything, then smart people, Vex, arguable, speak Greek and Latin. Yeah, that's fair. Sadly, my language skills led me to Swedish and Japanese. From the wildness of my wasted passion, I had struck a better, clearer song, lit some lighter light of freer freedom, battled with some hydra-headed wrong. Had my lips been smitten into music by the kisses that but made them bleed, you had walked with Bice and the angels on that verdant and enameled mead. I had trod the road with Dante, treading saw the suns of 7 circles shine. I, perchance, had seen the heavens opening as they opened to the Florentine. And the mighty nations would have crowned me, who am crownless now and without name, and some Orient drawn had found me kneeling on the threshold of the house of fame. I had sat within the marble circle where the oldest bard is as the young, and the pipe is ever dropping honey, and the lyre's strings are ever strung. Keats had lifted up his hymeneal curls from out the poppy-seeded wine, with ambrosial mouth had kissed my forehead, clasped the hand of noble love in mine. Welcome, Enriquez. And at springtide, when at springtide, when the apple blossoms brush the burnished bosom of the dove, 2 young lovers lying in an orchard would have read the story of our love. Fine, boo. Would have read the legend of my passion, known the bitter secret of my heart, kissed as we have kissed, but never parted, as we two are fated now to part. For the crimson flower of our life is eaten by the canker worm of truth, and no hand can gather up the fallen withered petals of the rose of youth. Yet, I am not sorry that I loved you. Ah, what else had I, a boy, to do? For the hungry teeth of time devour and the silent-footed years pursue. Rudderless, we drift athwart a tempest, and when once the storm of youth is past, without lyre, without lute or chorus, death, the silent pilot, comes at last. And within the grave there is no pleasure, for the blind worm battens on the root, and desire shudders into ashes, and the tree of passion bears no fruit. Ah, what else had I to do but love you? God's own mother was less dear to me, and less dear thy Cytherean rising like an argent lily from the sea. I have made my choice, have lived my poems, and, though youth is gone in wasted days, I have found the lover's crown of myrtle better than the poet's crown of bays. So I do think this one's kind of interesting because of the complicated nature of Oscar Wilde's life. Like, growing up educated, loved theater, music, art, and I mean that's what an aesthete is, right? Is to love things that are beautiful because for the sake of their beauty, and that could be a tragedy, a drama, it doesn't always have to be just literally beautiful things, but through his works of poetry, his novel, you can see the blossoming love he had with his lover, which of course at that time a man loving another man was big taboo. And I think this poem, like that last line, I found the lover's crown of myrtle better than the poet's crown of bays. So even though he was a noted poet, noted writer, noted literary giant of his time, like, he loved being in his lover's arms more than the accolades of being a poet. That's what I would take away from this, just knowing what I do about his work. Let's see. The Sphinx. Oh man, can we math this out real quick? So, I don't know. Are C's 50s? I don't know what that would be. So it's like, I don't know. Somebody who's good at knowing the Roman numerals work that out for me. So that's, let's see, M D C C C X, so X less than C, I V. So the last part is 4 at the very least. I don't know. Somebody who's good with math, figure that out. Okay. The Sphinx. Quick hydrate. Hydrate or dihydrate. In 1984? 1894? We're doing some math. Could be. So, makes me want to know. All right. I cannot move on to the poem until I know the answer. It is the nature of things. Okay. Because M is 1,000. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. C is 100. So, and then D is 5. Yep. So, mathematically, yeah, 1,894. It could very easily be the year. Because he died in... Don't know that off the top of my head. Yeah, he died in 1900, so at 46, by the way. He was super young. So if it was written in 1894, that was well within his lifespan, 6 years before he passed, yeah. The more you know. The Sphinx. In a dim corner of my room for longer than my fancy thinks, a beautiful and silent Sphinx has watched me through the shifting gloom. Inviolate and immobile, she does not rise, she does not stir, for silver moons are not to her, and not to her the suns that reel. Red follows gray, across the air the waves of moonlight ebb and flow. But with the dawn, she does not go, and in the night time she is there. Dawn follows dawn, and nights grow old, and all the while this curious cat lies crouching on the Chinese mat with eyes of satin rimmed with gold. Upon the mat she lies and leers, and on the tawny throat of her flutters the soft and silky fur, or ripples to her pointed ears. Come forth, my lovely seneschal, so somnolent, so statuesque. Come forth, you exquisite, grotesque, half woman and half animal. Come forth, my lovely, languorous Sphinx, and put your head upon my knee, and let me stroke your throat and see your body spotted like the lynx. And let me touch those curving claws of yellow ivory, and grasp the tail that, like a monstrous asp, coils round your heavy velvet paws. Oh, we gotta make sure that the captions are on. We are at Oscar Wilde now. Welcome in, Curious One. A 1,000 weary centuries are thine, while I have hardly seen some 20 summers cast their green for autumn's gaudy liveries. But you can read the hieroglyphs on the great sandstone obelisks, and you have talked with basilisks, and you have looked on hippogriffs. Oh, tell me, were you standing by when Isis to Osiris knelt, and did you watch the Egyptian melt her union for Antony, and drink the jewel-drunken wine, and bend her head in mimic awe to see the huge proconsul draw the salted tunny from the brine? And did you mark the Cyprian kiss? Cyprian. And did you mark the Cyprian kiss, white Adon on his catafalque? I do not know how to pronounce it. Catafalque? I'm guessing. All right. To the internet. Let's see. Open a new tab. CATAFL. Today I learned. Could one of you give me an exclamation point word? Well, it has a definition. Catafalque. Catafalque. Thanks, Fallon. Welcome in. A raised structure on which the body of a deceased person lies or is carried in state. Huh. Catafalque. The more I know. Catafalque. Okay. And did you mark the Cyprian kiss, white Adon on his catafalque? And did you follow Amonalk, the god of Heliopolis? And did you talk with Thoth? And did you hear the moon-horned Io weep? And know the painted kings who sleep beneath the wedge-shaped pyramid? Lift up your large black satin eyes, which are like cushions where one sinks. Fawn at my feet, fantastic sphinx, and sing me all your memories. Sing to me of the Jewish maid who wandered with the holy child, and how you led them through the wild, how they slept beneath your shade. Sing to me of that odorous green eve when couching by the marge, you heard from Adrian's gilded barge the laughter of Antinous, and lapped the stream and fed your drouth, and watched with hot and hungry stare the ivory body of that rare young slave with his pomegranate mouth. Sing to me of the labyrinth in which the twy-formed bull was stalled. Sing to me of the night you crawled across the temple's granite plinth, when through the purple corridors the screaming scarlet ibis flew. In terror and a horrid dew dripped from the moaning mandragores. And the great torpid crocodile within the tank shed slimy tears, and tare the jewels from his ears, and staggered back into the Nile. And the priest cursed you with shrill psalms as to your claws you seized their snake, and crept away with it to slake your passion by the shuddering palms. Oh my, oh my. Who were your lovers? Who were they who wrestled for you in the dust? Which was the vessel of your lust? What layman had you every day? Did giant lizards come and crouch before you on the reedy banks? Did griffins with great metal flanks leap on you in your trampled couch? Did monstrous hippopotami come sidling toward you in the mist? Did gilt-scaled dragons writhe and twist with passion as you passed them by? And from the brick-built Lycian tomb, what horrible chimera came with fearful heads and fearful flame to breed new wonders from your womb? Or had you shameful secret quests, and did you harry to your home some nereid coiled in amber foam with curious rock crystal breasts? Or did you, treading through the froth, call to the brown Sidonian for tidings of Leviathan or Behemoth? Or did you, when the sun was set, climb up the cactus-covered slope to meet your swarthy Ethiop, whose body was a polished jet? Or did you, while the earthen skiffs dropped down the gray Nilotic flats, Nilotic, I think. Or did you, while the earthen skiffs dropped down the gray Nilotic flats at twilight, and the flickering bats flew round the temple's triple glyphs, steal to the border of the bar and swim across the silent lake, and slink into the vault and make the pyramid your lupanar, till from each black sarcophagus rose up the painted swathed dead? Or did you lure unto your bed the ivory-horned Tragelaphos? Oh man, these Greek words. Tragelaphos, I think. Or did you lure unto your bed the ivory-horned Tragelaphos? Ah, Greek. Ah, I struggle. Or did you lure into your bed the ivory-horned Tragelaphos? I don't know what that is. Or did you love the god of flies, who plagued the Hebrews and was splashed with wine unto the waist? Or Pasht, who had green beryls for her eyes? Or that young god, the Tyrian, who was more amorous than the dove of Astaroth? Astaroth? No, that's Sephiroth. Oh well. Of Astaroth, or did you love the god of the Assyrian, whose wings like strange transparent tail rose high above his hawk-faced head, painted with silver and with red, and ribbed with rods of orichalc? Or did huge Apis from his car leap down and lay before your feet, big blossoms of the honey-sweet and honey-colored nenufar? I feel like this chapter is just made to mess me up. Oh my goodness. How subtle secret is your smile? Did you love none then? Nay, I know. Great Ammon was your bedfellow. He lay with you beside the Nile. The river horses in the slime trumpeted when they saw him come, odorous with Syrian galbanum and smeared with spikenard and with thyme. He came along the river bank. Like some tall galley argent sailed, he strode across the waters, mailed in beauty, and the waters sank. He strode across the desert sand. He reached the valley where you lay. He waited till the dawn of day, then touched your black breasts with his hand. You kissed his mouth with mouths of flame. You made the horned god your own. You stood behind him on his throne. You called him by his secret name. You whispered monstrous oracles into the caverns of his ears. With blood of goats and blood of steers, you taught him monstrous miracles. White Ammon was your bedfellow. Your chamber was the steaming Nile, and with your curved, archaic smile, you watched his passion come and go. With Syrian oils his brows were bright and widespread as a tent at noon. His marble limbs made pale the moon and lent the day a larger light. His long hair was 9 cubits span and colored like that yellow gem, which hidden in their garments' hem the merchants bring from Kurdistan. His face was as the must that lies upon a vat of new-made wine. The seas could not encypherine the perfect azure of his eyes. His thick, soft throat was white as milk and threaded with thin veins of blue, and curious pearls, like frozen dew, were broidered on his flowing silk. On pearl and porphyry pedestaled he was too bright to look upon, for on his ivory breast there shone the wondrous ocean emerald, that mystic moonlit jewel which some diver of the Colchian caves had found beneath the blackening waves and carried to the Colchian witch. Before his gilded galliot ran naked vine-wreathed corybants, and lines of swaying elephants knelt down to draw his chariots. And lines of swarthy Nubians bear up his litter as he rode down the great granite paven road between the nodding peacock fans. This is a lot of fanfare. It's very much giving Prince Ali from Aladdin. The merchants brought him steatite from Sidon in their painted ships. The meanest cup that touched his lips was fashioned from a chrysolite. The merchants brought him cedar chests of rich apparel bound with cords. His train was borne by Mephian lords. Young kings were glad to be his guests. 10,000 shaven priests did bow to Ammon's altar day and night. 10,000 lamps did wave their light through Ammon's carven house. And now foul snake and speckled adder with their young ones crawl from stone to stone, for ruined is the house and prone the great rose marble monolith. Wild ass or trotting jackal comes and couches in the mouldering gates. Wild satyrs call unto their mates across the fallen fluted drums, and on the summit of the pile the blue-faced ape of Horus sits, and gibbers while the fig tree splits the pillars of the peristyle. The god is scattered here and there, deep hidden in the windy sand. I saw his giant granite hand still clenched in impotent despair, and many a wandering caravan of stately men silken shawled, crossing the desert, halts appalled before the neck that none can span, and many a bearded Bedouin draws back his yellow-striped burnous to gaze upon the Titan thews of him who was thy paladin. Go. Seek his fragments on the moor, and wash them in the evening dew, and from their pieces make anew thy mutilated paramour. Go. Seek them where they lie alone, and from their broken pieces make thy bruised bedfellow, and wake mad passions in the senseless stone. Charm his dull ear with Syrian hymns. He loved your body. Oh, be kind. Pour spikenard on his hair, and wind soft rolls of linen round his limbs. Wind round his head the figured coins. Stain with red fruits those pallid lips. Weave purple for his shrunken hips, and purple for his barren loins. Away to Egypt. Have no fear. Only one god has ever died. Only one god has let his side be wounded by a soldier's spear. But these, thy lovers, are not dead, still by the 100-cubit gate. Dog-faced Anubis sits in state with lotus lilies for thy head. Still, from his chair of porphyry, gaunt Memnon strains his lidless eyes across the empty land, and cries each yellow morning unto thee. And Nilus, with his broken horn, lies in his black and oozy bed, and till thy coming will not spread his waters on the withering corn. Your lovers are not dead. I know. They will rise up and hear your voice, and clash their cymbals and rejoice, and run to kiss your mouth, and so set wings upon your argosies, set horses to your ebon car, back to your Nile, or if you are grown sick of dead divinities, follow some roving lion spoor across the copper-colored plain. Reach out and hail him by the mane, and bid him to be your paramour. Couch by his side upon the grass, and set your white teeth in his throat. And when you hear his dying note, lash your long flanks of polished brass, and take a tiger for your mate. Ayo, whose amber sides are flecked with black, and ride upon his gilded back in triumph through the Theban gate. And toy with him in amorous jests, and when he turns and snarls and gnaws, oh, smite him with your jasper claws, and bruise him with your agate breasts. Why are you tarrying? Get hence. I weary of your sullen ways. I weary of your steadfast gaze, your somnolent magnificence. Your horrible and heavy breath makes the light flicker in the lamp, and on my brow I feel the damp and dreadful dews of night and death. Your eyes are like fantastic moons that shiver in some stagnant lake. Your tongue is like a scarlet snake that dances to fantastic tunes. Your pulse makes poisonous melodies, and your black throat is like the hole left by some torch or burning coal on Saracenic tapestries. Away, The sulphur-colored stars are hurrying through the western gate. Away! Or it may be too late to climb their silent silver cars. See, the dawn shivers round the grey gilt-dialed towers, and the rain streams down each diamonded pane and blurs with tears the wannish day. What snake-tressed fury fresh from hell, with uncouth gestures and unclean, stole from the poppy drowsy queen and led you to a student's cell? What songless, tongueless ghost of sin crept through the curtains of the night and saw my taper burning bright and knocked and bade you enter in? Are there not others more accursed, whiter with leprosies than I? Are Abana and Farpar dry that you come here to slake your thirst? Get hence, you loathsome mystery, hideous animal, get hence. You wake in me each bestial sense, you make me what I would not be. You make me creed, a barren sham, you wake foul dreams of sensual life, and Attis, with his blood-stained knife, were better than the thing I am. False Sphinx, false Sphinx, by reedy sticks old Charon, I think. By reedy sticks old Charon, leaning on his oar, waits for my coin. Go thou before, and leave me to my crucifix. Oh. Hey, Panda, 1 second. Whose pallid burden, sick with pain, watches the world with wearied eyes and weeps for every soul that dies and weeps for every soul in vain. There we go. We finished The Sphinx, which was an interesting poem, the way it was broken up into sections like that. Not dedicated chapters or like, I guess with page breaks for each section, like part 1, part 2, etc. Aw. Thank you so much, Jules. Perfect. Also, welcome in, Devi. Welcome in, Panda. Thank you, Raiders, for being here.
Got it. Oh my god.
Did you shoot through the wall there? How?
Guys, good shit.
Eh,
GG.
fair enough. All right, clutch. You got the victory. Good work, Panda.
Right at them.
For those of you not aware, my name is Vexing Cat. I read classic literature and poetry, like today, the poetry of Oscar Wilde. I am part of Underrealm, as is Panda, who just raided in. Panda is part of Gen 1. I am Gen 2. Large community, amazing people. Can I get an exclamation point, Underrealm? Hi, Deus. Welcome in. How is the best tiger librarian doing? I think I'm doing all right. There was a rough few weeks there that were pretty hard on me. So 1,500, 300, so that would be 18. 10 less from C is, so 1898. Too many R's. It's 1 R in Underrealm Valen. Perfect. That works. Thanks, Debbie. But yes, if you're not already part of that amazing community, Underrealm has been really kind to me. I joined them a little over a month ago. It's been absolutely phenomenal. Getting to know all of Gen 1 and my Gen mates in Gen 2, Yuki and Ken were both here earlier. But it's nice to be able to be part of something that has so much infinite potential. I'm excited to see where this next year will take me. And by next year, I mean 2025 in its entirety. I think we're going to look at maybe a 3rd gen in 2026. I'm not really sure what the timeline looks like, but right now we're all still kind of feeling each other out and getting to know one another, you know, like a bunch of cats sniffing, dogs sniffing each other, like, who are you? I don't know, hello. You know, learning to live with one another and being the strength for where each other is weak. That's been pretty phenomenal. Everybody's just so encouraging and helpful, and it's been really exciting watching Underrealm grow. But yes, so the Ballad of Reading Jail, which looks like it's 1,898, I believe. Hey, I did the math once I knew what the D and the M were. So the D. But yeah, so I know it says Reading Gaol, but it is Reading Jail, apparently, which is one of his more notable works. I'm pretty excited to get into this, but I'm going to go ahead and do an ad break right now. And the reason for this is this one particular poem has multiple sections and will literally get us through the next 40-ish pages all on its own. So let's go ahead and do that ad break now, and then when I come back, we'll go ahead and just kick ass, take names, and read all of the Ballad of Reading Jail. So hang tight, everybody. Welcome in, Raiders, once again. Thank you for being here. It is a big poem. It's not quite, an Icelandic epic or a Greek epic, but it's up there. So, un momento, I will be right back. Okay, we should be back. Let everything load. Ta-da-da. Fantastic. Okay. So we're going to be reading the next poem with all of its various sections. I think there are 6, maybe 8. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. Bada bada. Bada bada bada. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. There are 6. There you go. The more you know. All right, so we're going to be reading the Ballad of Reading Gaol from 1898. My goodness. So this poem is in memoriam of C.T.W., sometime trooper of the Royal Horse Guards, obit H.M. Prison, Reading, Berkshire, July 7th of 1896. It's interesting. Definitely says 1898 there. Who knows? All right, so this is the first part of an epic, a ballad. So I'm going to put my hair up for this so I don't get distracted by various strands of hair. Okay. All right. So part 1 of the Ballad of Reading Gaol. Put a chapter marker in here. Makes it easier to track when I post them all on YouTube. There we go. He did not wear his scarlet coat, for blood and wine are red, and blood and wine were on his hands when they found him with the dead, the poor dead woman whom he loved, and murdered in her bed. Starting very strong. He walked amongst the trial men in a suit of shabby grey. A cricket cap was on his head, and his step seemed light and gay. But I never saw a man who looked so wistfully at the day. I never saw a man who looked with such a wistful eye upon that little tent of blue, which prisoners call the sky, and at every drifting cloud that went with sails of silver by. I walked, with other souls in pain, within another ring, and was wondering if the man had done a great or little thing, when a voice behind me whispered low, "That fellow's got to swing." Oof. Dear Christ, the very prison walls suddenly seemed to reel, and the sky above my head became like a cask of scorching steel. And though I was a soul in pain, my pain I could not feel. I only knew what hunted thought quickened his step, and why he looked upon the garish day with such a wistful eye. The man had killed the thing he loved, and so he had to die. Yet each man kills the thing he loves. By each let this be heard. Some do it with a bitter look, some with a flattering word. The coward does it with a kiss, and a brave man with a sword. Some kill their love when they are young, and some when they are old. Some strangle with the hands of lust, some with the hands of gold. The kindest use a knife, because the dead so soon grow cold. Some love too little, some too long, some sell and others buy, Some do the deed with many tears, and some without a sigh. For each man kills the thing he loves, yet each man does not die. He does not die a death of shame on a day of dark disgrace, nor have a noose about his neck, nor a cloth upon his face, nor drop feet foremost through the floor into an empty space. He does not sit with silent men who watch him night and day, who watch him when he tries to weep and when he tries to pray, who watch him lest himself should rob the prison of its prey. Oh, going to sneeze. Okay, got it. He does not wake at dawn to see dread figures throng his room, the shivering chaplain robed in white, the sheriff stern with gloom, and the governor all in shiny black with the yellow face of doom. He does not rise in piteous haste to put on convict clothes, while some coarse-mouthed doctor gloats and notes with each and nerve-twitched pose, fingering a watch whose little ticks are like horrible hammer blows. That's a description.
Hydrate or dihydrate?
Hi, Sally. This poem is quite dark already. He does not know the sickening thirst. No, he does not know that sickening thirst. Speaking of thirst, remember to hydrate or dihydrate. He does not know that sickening thirst that sands one's throat before the hangman with his gardener's gloves slips through the padded door and binds one with 3 leathern thongs that the throat may thirst no more. He does not bend his head to hear the burial office read, nor while the terror of his soul tells him he is not dead, cross his own coffin as he moves into the hideous shed. He does not stare upon the air through a little roof of glass. He does not pray with lips of clay for his agony to pass, nor feel upon his shuddering cheek the kiss of Caiaphas. Oof, spicy. One should not romanticize something so painful as death, but the way he described it was something I had never experienced before. Ah, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Space fish. Part 2. 6 weeks our guardsman walked the yard, in the suit of shabby grey. His cricket cap was on his head, and his step seemed light and gay. His step seemed light and gay. But I never saw a man who looked so wistfully at the day. I never saw a man who looked with such a wistful eye upon that little tent of blue which prisoners call the sky, and at every wandering cloud that trailed its ravelled fleeces by. He did not wring his hands, as do those witless men who dare to try to rear the changeling hope in the cave of black despair. He only looked upon the sun and drank the morning air. He did not wring his hands nor weep, nor did he peak or pine, but he drank the air as though it held from healthful anodyne. With open mouth he drank the sun as though it had been wine. I am doing quite well, Spacefish. You came from one of my gen mates, Gen 2, awesome. An amazing group of people. Making the rounds, checking everyone out. Yeah, cozy vibes. We like Imperial we. I read classic literature and poetry. Today I'm doing poetry. I game a little bit. I have a bi-weekly D&D campaign that's been ongoing for a year. And then I do like kind of cozy visual novels as a rule, but I have a couple on the docket that will be interesting. I've got from the makers of Gree, I have Neva, which will be coming up sometime in the near future. We've got a couple of really cool things this week too for on the schedule. So if you want to see me in other contexts, you could always catch me on Red Lethal Panda, you know, swearing in Overwatch, or let me see. This Sunday I'll be on Aloria from Gen 1. I'll be on her stream. She's hosting a karaoke night, so I'll be singing a little bit. No spoilers. Then tomorrow I'm actually going to be on Sino the Crocodile's stream. We are playing The Liar's Bar, which I have not played before, but I'm quite excited for. You know, you have to like say things and then guess if it's true or false and accuse the liar for being a liar. So let's see. We've got, oh, Grim joined Underrealm. That's sick. Awesome. Okay. And I clicked off of something and I shouldn't have, and then here we are. As Linkin Park is about to play, but I always have all these alarms because with my Swiss cheese brain, I would forget my head if it wasn't attached to my body.
Like back on the old PlayStation.
To be fair.
Yeah.
I had a game that I loved and I played over and over called Threads
Unmedicated.
of Fate.
Sino, stop. It's my favorite game in the entire world, and I've never met another person who's
that's Sino
seen
the
it.
Crocodile and Laura. I think that was Myeonji was with him. Me reading is an exciting stream. You're too kind, Lasada. Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm really excited. The list of bangers that we've all picked for songs is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't done karaoke in probably a month just because I've been sick. Can I get an exclamation point shout out for Space Circus when you have a second, Jules? So Space Circus is another creator. Artist, genuinely kind person here on Twitch. I haven't seen one of his streams in a minute, but he usually hosts like a karaoke night on his Discord. I think on Fridays typically. Excellent.
Precious. Yeah.
Splatoon. Oh, that would have been a good game.
Oh my god! I had a shiny! My thing was a shiny! Yes!
Yeah.
I am a good player!
Splatoon mention.
No! I'm a good player!
You are Space, I believe. I trust. Have faith. But yes, I found Space through the Almontis VT sphere, and just pixel artist extraordinaire. He made his model. It's incredible the amount of detail he got into, the expressions, the hair, the outfit, all of it. Just an amazing artist. Do we have? I think that might be the only clip that they have right now, but let's see. At first, at least first impression, going from cozy poetry to metal karaoke sounds like a bit of whiplash. I'm more of a crooner, to be fair, Spacefish. You're gonna catch me with more like Eartha Kitt and like Ella Fitzgerald, and more like who's another example? Doris Day. Those are more my wheelhouse. Low, slow, and a little bit sultry. But there are, I think I have one metal, one Christmas, one other song. Aw, thank you. But yeah, I've done karaoke on Space Circus's Discord a couple of times. Swing for me. Well, we're talking about somebody swinging in a very different context, so we should probably get back to that. Electro swing is acceptable. Fair. I actually like, what is it called where they take like modern songs and then turn them into something jukebox radio or jukebox something. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll see you on Sunday. But thanks for hanging out and checking out my stream. And I, and all the souls in pain who tramped the other ring, forgot if we ourselves had done a great or little thing, and watched with gaze of dull amaze the man who had to swing. And strange it was to see him pass, with a step so light and gay, and strange it was to see him look so wistfully at the day, and strange it was to think that he had such a debt to pay. For oak and elm have pleasant leaves that in the springtime shoot, but grim to see is the gallows tree with its adder-bitten root, and green or dry a man must die before it bears its fruit. The loftiest place is that seat of grace, for which all worldlings try, but who would stand in hempen band upon a scaffold high, and through a murderer's collar take his last look at the sky. Yes, postmodern jukebox. It's a vibe. It's definitely a vibe. It slows down a lot of the songs into a pace that's easier for me to keep up with. It is sweet to dance to violins, when love and life are fair. To dance to flutes, to dance to lutes is delicate and rare. But it is not sweet with nimble feet to dance upon the air. So, with curious eyes and sick surmise, we watched him day by day, and wondered if each one of us would end the self-same way. For none can tell to what red hell his sightless soul may stray. At last the dead man walked no more amongst the trial men, and I knew that he was standing up in the black dock's dreadful pen, and that never would I see his face in God's sweet world again. Like two doomed ships that pass in storm, we had crossed each other's way, but we made no sign, we said no word, we had no word to say, for we did not meet in the holy night, but in the shameful day. A prison wall was round us both, two outcast men we were. The world had thrust us from its heart, and God from out his care. And the iron gin that waits for sin had caught us in its snare. Dark. I thought it was interesting that line there about with wistful eye upon the little tent of blue, which prisoners call the sky. It's interesting that he used that almost identical same stanza from part 1 in part 2. I wonder if he'll use it again. We shall see. Part 3. In debtor's yard the stones are hard, and the dripping wall is high. And so it was there he took the air beneath the leaden sky. And by each side a warder walked, for fear the man might die. Or else he sat with those who watched with his anguish night and day, who watched him when he rose to weep and when he crouched to pray, who watched him lest himself should rob their scaffold of its prey. The governor was strong upon the regulations act. The doctor said the death was but a scientific fact. And twice a day the chaplain called and left a little tract. And twice a day he smoked his pipe and drank his quart of beer. His soul was resolute and held no hiding place for fear. He often said that he was glad the hangman's hands were near. But why? He said so strange a thing, no warder dared to ask, for he to whom a watcher's doom is given as his task must set a lock upon his lips and make his face a mask, or else he might be moved and try to comfort or console, and what should human pity do pent up in murderer's hole? What word of grace in such a place could help a brother's soul? With slouch and swing around the ring we trod the fool's parade. We did not care, we knew we were the devil's own brigade. and shaven head and feet of lead made a merry masquerade. I found the cadence for it. We tore the tarry rope to shreds with blunt and bleeding nails. We rubbed the doors and scrubbed the floors, and cleaning the shining rails. And rank by rank we soaped the plank and clattered with the pails. We sewed the sacks, we broke the stones, we turned the dusty drill. We banged the tins and bawled the hymns and sweated on the mill. But in the heart of every man, terror was lying still. So still it lay that every day crawled like a weed-clogged wave. Crawled like a weed-clogged wave. And we forgot the bitter lot that waits for fool and knave, till once as we tramped in from work, we passed an open grave. With yawning mouth the yellow hole gaped for a living thing. The very mud cried out for blood to the thirsty asphalt ring. And we knew that ere one dawn grew fair, some prisoner had to swing. Right in we went with soul intent on death and dread and doom. The hangman with his little bag went shuffling through the gloom, and each man trembled as he crept into his numbered tomb. That night the empty corridors were full of forms of fear, and up and down the iron town stole feet we could not hear, and through the bars that hide the stars white faces seemed to peer. He lay as one who lies and dreams in a pleasant meadow land. The watchers watched him as he slept and could not understand how one could sleep so sweet a sleep with a hangman close at hand. But there is no sleep when men must weep, who never yet have wept, so we, the fool, the fraud, the knave, that endless vigil kept, and through each brain on hands of pain another's terror crept. Alas, it is a fearful thing to feel another's guilt, for right within the sword of sin pierced to its poisoned hilt. And as molten lead were the tears we shed for the blood we had not spilt. The warders with their shoes of felt crept by each padlocked door, and peeped and saw with eyes of awe grey figures on the floor, and wondered why men knelt to pray who never prayed before. All through the night he knelt and prayed, mad mourners of a course. The troubled plumes of midnight were the plumes upon a hearse, and bitter wine upon a sponge was the savour of remorse. The grey cock crew, the red cock crew, but never came the day, and crooked shapes of terror crouched in the corners where we lay. And each evil sprite that walks by night before us seemed to play. They glided past, they glided fast like travellers through a mist. They mocked the moon in a rigadoon of delicate turn and twist, and with formal pace and loathsome grace the phantoms crept their tryst. With mop and mow we saw them go, slim shadows hand in hand, about in ghostly rout they trod a saraband, and the damned grotesques made arabesques like the wind upon the sand. With the pirouettes of marionettes they tripped on pointed tread, but with flutes of fear they filled the ear as their grisly mask they led. And loud they sang, and long they sang, and they sang to wake the dead. "Oh ho!" they cried, "the world is wide, but fettered limbs go lame, and once or twice to throw the dice is a gentlemanly game. But he does not win who plays with sin in the secret house of shame." Water. No things of air these antics were that frolicked with such glee. To men whose lives were held in gyves, and whose feet might not go free. Ah, wounds of Christ, they were living things most terrible to see. Around they waltzed and wound, some wheeled in smirking pairs, with the mincing step of a demirep, some sidled up the stairs, and with subtle sneer and fawning leer each helped us at our prayers. The morning wind began to moan, but still the night went on. Through its giant loom the web of gloom crept till each thread was spun. And, as we prayed, we grew afraid of the justice of the sun. The moaning wind went wandering round the weeping prison wall, till like a wheel of turning steel we felt the minutes crawl. A moaning wind, what had we done to have such a seneschal? At last, I saw the shadowed bars, like a lattice wrought in lead, move right across the whitewashed wall that faced my three-planked bed, and I knew that somewhere in the world God's dreadful dawn was red. At 6 o'clock we cleaned our cells. At 7 all was still, but the but the softened swing of a mighty wing the prison seemed to fill. For the Lord of Death with icy breath had entered in to kill. He did not pass in purple pomp, nor ride a moon-white steed. 3 yards of cord and a sliding board are all the gallows need. So with rope of shame the herald came to do the secret deed. We were as men who through a fen of filthy darkness grope. We did not dare to breathe a prayer or to give our anguish scope. Something was dead in each of us, and what was dead was hope. For man's grim justice goes its way and will not swerve aside. It slays the weak, it slays the strong, it has a deadly stride. With iron heel it slays the strong, the monstrous parricide. We waited for the stroke of 8. Each tongue was thick with thirst, for the stroke of 8 is the stroke of fate that makes a man accursed. And fate will use a running noose for the best man and the worse. We had no other thing to do, save to wait for the sign to come. So, like things of stone in valley lone, quiet we sat and dumb. But each man's heart beat thick and quick, like a madman on a drum. With sudden shock the prison clock smote on the shivering air, and from all the jail rose up a wail of impotent despair, like the sound that frightened marshes hear from some leper in his lair. And, as one sees most fearful things, in the crystal of a dream, we saw the greasy hempen rope hooked to the blackened beam, and heard the prayer, the hangman's snare, strangled into a scream. And all the woe that moved him so, that he gave that bitter cry, and the wild regrets and the bloody sweats none knew so well as I, for he who lives more than lives than one, more deaths than one must die. It occurs to me, maybe I should make this an 18+ stream. Just like, it's a little spicy. And a lot of references to death in this one poem. Just too little. There we go. Trigger warning, death. There we go. What? You know, I would really like it if it would automatically save the category that I'm reading under. Silly. Vexing yabai? Yabay? Yabai. There we go. That's a little better. So we're on to part 4 of 6. We're kind of cooking. We might be able to actually do some of the other poems upon review. I don't know. OBS has been weird since the last major update, which was like a week plus ago. That one, I don't recall what number it was. It's just been odd. All right. Part 4. There is no chapel on the day on which they hang a man. The chaplain's heart is far too sick, or his face is too far, or his face is far too wan. Or there is that written in his eyes, which none should look upon. So they kept us close till nigh on noon, and then they rang the bell, and the warders with their jingling keys opened each listening cell, and down the iron stair we tramped, each from his separate hell. Out into God's sweet air we went, but not in wonted way, for this man's face was white with fear, and that man's face was grey, and I never saw sad men who looked so wistfully at the day. I never saw sad men who looked with such a wistful eye upon the little tent of blue we prisoners called the sky, and at every careless cloud that passed in happy freedom by. Called it. But there were those amongst us all who walked with downcast head, and knew that, had each got his due, they should have died instead. He had but killed a thing that lived, whilst they had killed the dead. For he who sins a second time wakes a dead soul to pain, and draws it from its spotted shroud, and makes it bleed again, and makes it bleed great gouts of blood, and makes it bleed in vain. Like ape or clown in monstrous garb, with crooked arrows starred, silently we went round and round the slippery asphalt yard. Silently we went round, and no man spoke a word. Silently we went round, and through each hollow mind the memory of dreadful things rushed like a dreadful wind. I think for rhyming scheme, he probably meant wind. Silently we went round, and through each hollow mind the memory of dreadful things rushed like a dreadful wind, and horror stalked before each man, and terror crept behind. That was the right call. The warders strutted up and down and kept their herd of brutes. Their uniforms were spick and span, and they wore their Sunday suits. But we knew the work they had been at by the quick lime on their boots. For where a grave had opened wide, there was no grave at all, only a stretch of mud and sand by the hideous prison wall, and a little heap of burning lime that the man should have his paw. If there is no grave and they have a heap of lime, that is a really awful way to dispose of a body. That's oof. For he was a Paul, this wretched man, such as few men can claim, deep down below a prison yard, naked for greater shame. He lies with fetters on each foot, wrapped in a sheet of flame, and all the while the burning lime eats flesh and bone away. It eats the brittle bone by night, and the soft flesh by day. It eats the flesh and bone by turns, but it eats the heart alway. I think that stanza answers your question, Cooks. The smell. Lime processing a corpse is oof. It's yeah, but it'll eat through anything except for metal. I think, I don't know, I would have to talk to one of my chemist friends about the metal. As far as I'm aware, though, no. Don't write that down, Cooks! For 3 long years they will not sow, or root, or seedling there. For 3 long years the unblessed spot will sterile be and bare, and look upon the wandering sky with unreproachful stare. They think a murderous heart would taint each simple seed they sow. It is not true. God's kindly earth is kindlier than men know, and the red rose would but blow more red, and white rose whiter blow. Also spitting facts with this stanza, because, like, Mother Nature loves dead things. And, like, plants thrive on the nutrition from a dead thing. Out of his mouth a red, red rose, out of his heart a white. For who can say by what strange way Christ brings his will to light? Since the barren staff the pilgrim bore bloomed in the great Pope's sight. But neither milk-white rose nor red may bloom in prison air. The shard, the pebble, and the flint are what they give us there. For flowers have been known to heal a common man's despair. So never will wine-red, rose, or white, petal by petal fall on that stretch of mud and sand that lies by the hideous prison wall. To tell the men who tramp the yard that God's Son died for all, yet through the hideous prison wall still hems him round and round, and a spirit may not walk by night, that is with fetters bound. And a spirit may but weep that lies in such unholy ground, he is at peace, this wretched man. At peace or will be soon, there is no thing to make him mad, nor does terror walk at noon. For the lampless earth in which he lies has neither sun nor moon. They hanged him as a beast is hanged. They did not even toll a requiem that might have brought rest to his startled soul. But hurriedly they took him out and hid him in a hole. They stripped him of his canvas clothes and gave him to the flies. They mocked the swollen purple throat and the stark and staring eyes. And with laughter loud they heaped the shroud in which their convict lies. The chaplain would not kneel to pray by his dishonored grave, nor mark it with that blessed cross that Christ for sinners gave, because the man was one of those whom Christ came down to save. Yet all is well, he has but passed to life's appointed bourne, and alien tears will fill for him pity's long broken urn. For his mourners will be outcast men, and outcasts always mourn. Luca Love Raid, how is my favorite unbirthday Oni? How are you today? The very best Oni. Luca, for those of you not familiar, Luca Nesso is also one of Gen 2s from Underrealm. Either Valen or Jules, if one of you could give me a it is an unbirthday. I'm very well of when Luca's actual birthday is, and I will not say the words happy without a pause and birthday on any other day other than the actual birthday. Oh, thank you for the follow.
He's dying slowly for sure.
No, he's alive.
Oh.
Okay, let's go to those items.
It is covering over poor Luca. Lethal Company is such a gas. My friend Screw Chaos, she really got me into that game. I'm a big old scaredy cat, a big old scaredy tiger. So to me, Lethal Company is scary. I think it's the jump scares that mostly get me. I think yes, on most days that are not this one. Oh no. Oh goodness. Thank you for the follow.
Odric_ just followed.
Gotta get me in yeah, October is when I allow myself scary games and scary shows and scary stories. I do love a good scary story. For those of you raiders that have not seen my content before, hello, my name is Vexing Cat. I am currently using a PNG tuber, and someday when we hit that magical number, I'm going to debut my live 2D. So tell your friends, tell your wives, husbands, and more that I am looking for new friends to join my Libro files, which for those of you that followed, welcome to my library. I primarily read classic literature and poetry. Currently, we are reading The Ballad of Reading Gaol. It is very dark. It's about the hanging of a man who murdered his wife. Bring on 1000. Yeah, that is the magic number. That is the number. We'll see when we get there. Yes. Hi, Grim. Welcome in. And Saren, you were here, and now you're here twice. Zay the Daemon sounds like a story for all ages. Yes, I guess. Depending on what class you're taking in classic literature, yeah, probably. But we are on to part 5 of, I believe there's 6 parts. So yes, we're trying to get to 1000. When we get close, because we're still like quite a ways away, when we get close, I have a one of those reveal posts that I'll put on Blue Sky. You know, the, what is it, like and retweet, blah blah blah. And then yeah, I've got a couple of different outfits, different hairstyles, all these things. Aw, thank you for the follow sickness. Yeah, one closer. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, let's focus back on, for Luca, if you are still here, Miss Ma'am, hydrate, caffeinate, grab a snack, do whatever it is you need to recover. You were awesome today. And Luca, I think you're also going to be be there on Sunday for the Merry Metal karaoke, if I recall. Lurky, and listen to, aw, you say the nicest things. All of the little slappy cats. I love it. Okay, let's see. So we are on to part 5 of the Ballad of Reading Gaol. And I know it says Gowl, but that's how you spelt it, I guess. Oh, it's Tiger Faye! I'm so excited. It's Tiger Faye. For those of you not familiar, Tiger Faye was probably the first tiger that I got to follow and followed me back. And I have known Tiger Faye. They have been around at least a year and vice versa. Hi Tiger Faye. They just had a debut. I don't know which, actually. If I could get an exclamation point for shout out for Tiger Faye as well, because like I said, they just had a debut. Variety streamer, gamer, artist, tiger, which I am rather partial and somewhat fond of all tigers. Bless. Oh, your PNG model. I remember this.
Cameraman! He took my notebook!
How dare. How dare they steal your notebook?
Calico, did you see that?
It is! There's no rhyme or reason. I really need to figure out the shouties. One of these days. I'll have to sit down with my friends and be like, hey, where is this pulling these clips from? Oh, it played the same one. Again? Interesting.
Oh, it's
huh.
It's the man! It's
Maybe
the man,
because you
the
both did
cameraman!
the thing?
He took my notebook!
Why are you like this, shout out player? Yep,
Calico,
it's supposed to be random, but it's not very random if it plays the exact same one. I am Confucian. Weird. It can send link, maybe, possibly. I'm not sure. I've looked at a couple of different shout out players. I haven't found one I actually like. I can send link maybe, and I can't write. That's fair. That's fair. It's been a long day for me, so I feel that. Down to my toes. Okay. Let's go ahead and read part 5 of the Ballad of Reading Gaol. 2 seconds later, distraction. Yeah. Squirrel! We'll try. Part 5 of the Ballad of Reading Jail. I know not whether laws be right, or whether laws be wrong. All that we know who lie in jail is that the wall is strong, and that each day is like a year whose days are long. But this I know, that every law that men have made for man, since first man took his brother's life, and the sad world began, but straws the wheat and saves the chaff with a most evil fan. This too I know, and wise it were if each could know the same, that every prison that men build is built with bricks of shame, and bound with bars, lest Christ should see how men their brothers maim. With bars they blur the gracious moon, and blind the goodly sun, and they do well to hide their hell, for in it things are done that Son of God nor Son of Man should ever look upon. The vilest deeds, like poison weeds, bloom well in prison air. It is only what is good in man that wastes and withers there. Pale anguish keeps the heavy gate, and the warder in despair. For they starve the little frightened child, till it weeps both night and day. And they scourge the weak and flog the fool, and gibe the old and grey. And some grow mad, and all grow bad, and none a word may say. I had not considered that sickness. I have an exclamation point word, but that just keeps track of how many times I've had to refer to a dictionary since I implemented it. But that would be a good note. Jules or Valen, could one of you send me a reminder to look into...
Hydrate or dihydrate?
Hydrate or dihydrate. Could you look into the whole word replace? I'm not sure how that would work. I'm not sure if my tickled brain would do that. Maybe, but hydrate.
Snack time!
Nom 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 nom. A biscuit for me? We love Biscoff cookies. Nom nom nom. Crunch ASMR. You're welcome. Oh, those are so good. They're dangerous. That's why I need it as a redeem, because otherwise I'll just eat the whole package. They're dangerous. I have a recipe for a Biscoff cookie cheesecake. Oh, evil. Each narrow cell in which we dwell is a foul and dark latrine, and the fetid breath of living death chokes up each grated screen, and all but lust is turned to dust in humanity's machine. The brackish water that we drink creeps with a loathsome slime, and the bitter bread they weigh in scales is full of chalk and lime. And sleep will not lie down, but walks wild-eyed and cries to time. And sleep will not lie down, but walks wild-eyed and cries to time. Interesting. Interesting imagery. But though lean hunger and green thirst, like asp with adder fight, we have like care of prison fare for what chills and kills outright, is that every stone one lifts by day becomes one's heart by night. With midnight always in one's heart, and twilight in one's cell, we turn the crank or tear the rope, each in his separate hell. And the silence is more awful far than the sound of a brazen bell. And never a human voice comes near to speak a gentle word, and the eye that watches through the door is pitiless and hard. and by all forgot, we rot and rot, with soul and body marred. And thus we rust life's iron chain, degraded and alone. And some men curse, and some men weep, and some men make no moan, but God's eternal laws are kind, and break the heart of stone. I'm not familiar with trifle. I'm not sure that I've ever had it, but I imagine it's some kind of dessert, and that sounds awesome, Fallen. And every human heart that breaks in prison cell or yard is at that broken box that gave its treasure to the Lord, and filled the unclean leper's house with a scent of costliest nard. What is nard? Anyone knows? I'm gonna regret looking this up. I can just feel it down to my toes. Archaic word though. An aromatic Himalayan plant believed to be the spikenard, Nardostachys jatamansi, the source of an ointment used by the ancients. The ointment. Ah, thank you, Deus. Nard. I'm pretty sure that I used that word in like elementary school as an insult, and so that's really funny in context. So, an ointment. And filled the unclean leper's house with the scent of costliest nard. So costliest ointment. So trying to prolong their life and take care of their leprosy, they are using a costly ointment filled and infused with herbs and smells. Interesting. Ah, happy they whose hearts can break and peace of pardon win. How else may man make straight his plan and cleanse his soul from sin? How else but through a broken heart may Lord Christ enter in? And he of the swollen purple throat and the stark and staring eyes waits for the holy hands that took the thief to paradise. And a broken and a contrite heart the Lord will not despise. The man in red who reads the law gave him 3 weeks of life, 3 little weeks in which to heal his soul of his soul's strife, and cleanse from every blot of blood the hand that held the knife. And with tears of blood he cleansed the hand that held the steel, for only blood can wipe out blood, and only tears can heal. And the crimson stain that was of Cain became Christ's snow white seal. Well, here we are, part 6. I like that last refrain. That last stanza there. And with tears of blood he cleansed the hand that held the steel, for only blood can wipe out blood, and only tears can heal. And the crimson stain that was of Cain became Christ's snow white seal. Yeah, I like that. That's nice. I mean, nice in the imagery it conveys. Yes, cooks, it is another word for balls. And that is pretty sure what kick somebody in the nards meant in elementary school ages and ages ago. Ah, sickness. You should hear me swearing up a storm while I play Overwatch. I'm reading poetry written 100 years ago. You are fine. Sit and enjoy. It's just interesting. If you're feeling unwelcome, I apologize thoroughly. That is not my intent. I appreciate every single one of my listeners, everyone that is here to listen to these stories and these poems. They're interesting. I am eloquent because I read. I read because I love literature. I share my literature with others so that they themselves can experience firsthand what I'm experiencing. Yeah, I'm just a cute nerd like that. Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah. I like stories. I like a magpie collecting them. There's this game I've been playing that is called Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. And as you traverse across the continental US, you pick up story after story after story and you retell those stories. And it's just a fascinating game for me because it's like, ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, there's a piece of candy. So I can get all of these different stories from all over the US. And some of these stories I recognize, like the woman with the yellow ribbon. That story has been retold and retold. For context, the woman with the yellow ribbon was it's a horror-based story where the woman agreed to marry the man and he said, you have to take off your ribbon, and she said no, and he married her anyway, and they loved each other, they lived together, but he fell in love with someone else because she never took off the ribbon and he never knew why. And then finally, when he decided to like leave his wife, the yellow ribbon woman, for this other woman, she finally undid the ribbon and her head falls off. And it's like, oh, twist, plot twist. That was the only thing holding it on. Oh no. But yeah, there's been a number of stories about bootleggers and people that are like working the land, and like ghost stories. Like there was one about, I think the devil, it was in the Appalachians, it was like a devil dog creature, and then the man on the white horse, which is I think a reference to the Bible and other things. Not unwelcome at all. The grace in your voice is royalty, and I am but a commoner receiving a welcoming higher education. No, see, you're bringing forth poetry, and that's an amazing compliment. I would not consider my voice royalty. I think my voice is just facilitating a tool to help people enjoy the literature, and if they gain or garner a little bit of knowledge in the experience, awesome. Well, fair enough, Fallen, fair enough. Okay. Let's read the last part of the Ballad of Reading Jail, and I find myself with another hour's worth of content to consume, so we might just go ahead and lean into those uncollected poems. I didn't realize how quickly I would read this 6-parter ballad, but we're here, and we don't have to run an ad for another hour and some odd minutes, so what the heck, why not? Okay. Last part. Oh, also, welcome in, Biker. Haven't seen you in a minute. See, Biker knows me from New World, where I was, yeah, I was crass and I was rude. Well, not often. I mostly wanted to take care of people and gather ingredients because it made people's lives better. But yeah, Biker has seen me in some of my most verbose, angy moments. Yeah, that's 2,000 plus hours of gameplay I'm never getting back, but that's okay. Part 6. The Ballad of Reading Jail. Reading Jail. In Reading Jail by Reading Town, there is a pit of shame, and in it lies a wretched man eaten by teeth of flame. In a burning winding sheet he lies, and in his grave has got no name. And there, till Christ call forth the dead, in silence let him lie. No need to waste the foolish tear, or heave the windy sigh. The man had killed the thing he loved, and so he had to die. And all men kill the thing they love, by all let this be heard. Some do it with a bitter look, some with a flattering word. The coward does it with a kiss, the brave man with a sword. C33. No idea what that's supposed to refer to. Well. Some of the cuss word, yeah. Yeah. On occasion have said some very spicy words. Children of Men, good movie. Oh, yes. That one was pretty fascinating. I would even give it an 8 out of 10, to be honest. That I really enjoyed the story, and the acting was quite good. The violent action parts were impeccable. I mean, it was no Michael Bay explosion, but it was pretty solid. Alright, so we are in the uncollected poems, which I can only surmise what that means. Perhaps they were never published in any other way and they were collected after his death, perhaps? I don't know. Piker. Let's see. Where, oh where, when we da-da. The uncollected poems are all singular little beasties, so I think we will read a few of them. Oh, from spring days to winter, that seems appropriate, as we come up to the cusp of the winter solstice. I am not Biker. I'm very much rarely ashamed of anything. Besides, my biases is towards horror movies. You are correct. 8 out of 10. Yes. I often have good opinions and bad ones, like my favorite movie being Red Sonja. Terrible film. Love it anyway, mostly because of the comics. But contextually, modern comics by Dark Horse, not the retro comics from the 70s, which are good, but like the way they drew her face was oof. From spring days to winter, for music. In the glad springtime when leaves were green, oh merrily the throstle sings. I sought amid the tangled sheen love whom mine eyes had never seen. Oh, the glad dove has golden wings. Between the blossoms red and white, oh merrily the throstle sings. My love first came into my sight. Oh, perfect vision of delight. Oh, the glad dove has golden wings. The yellow apples glowed like fire. Oh, merrily the throstle sings. Oh, love too great for lip or lyre, blown rose of love and of desire. Oh, the glad dove has golden wings. But now, with snow the tree is gray. Ah, sadly now the throstle sings. My love is dead, ah, well a day. See, at her silent feet I lay, a dove with broken wings. Ah, love, that thou wert slain. Fond dove, return again. Oh, that's why. Boop. There we go. And we have something in Greek, and I have no idea what that says. So, Greek sentence here for the title, don't know what it is. Oh, well for him who lives at ease with garnered gold in wide domain, nor heeds the splashing of the rain, the crashing down of forest trees. Oh, well for him who never hath known the travail of the hungry years, a father grey with grief and tears, a mother weeping all alone. For well for him whose foot hath trod the weary road of toil and strife, yet from the sorrows of his life builds ladders to be nearer God. The true knowledge. Thou knowest all, I seek in vain, what lands to till or sow with seed. The land is black with briar and weed, nor cares for falling tears or rain. Thou knowest all. I sit and wait with blinded eyes and hands that fail, to the last lifting of the veil and the first opening of the gate. Thou knowest all. I cannot see. I trust I shall not live in vain. I know that we shall meet again in some divine eternity. Lotus leaves. There is no peace beneath the noon. Ah, in those meadows is there peace, where, girdled with a silver fleece, as a bright shepherd strays the moon. Queen of the gardens of the sky, where stars like lilies white and fair shine through the mists of frosty air, O tarry, for the dawn is nigh. O tarry, for the envious day stretches long hands to catch thy feet. Alas, but thou art overfleet. Alas, I know thou will not stay. Up sprang the sun to run his race. The breeze blew fair on meadow and lea, but in the west I seemed to see the likeness of a human face. You now have to go buy Red Sonja comics. Yeah. Yeah, the Arnie. So, interesting fact. So, Red Sonja does appear in Conan in the comics, but she got her own franchise because who doesn't love a woman in a, metal bikini? But interestingly enough, when they made Red Sonja, they got Arnold, like they got him to come on to be his part, but they could not give him the name Conan because they didn't have the rights to use that name. It was too expensive. So, fun fact, Arnold is he's the same character as he was in the Conan series, but he is not Conan. And he wears a little headband and has, more clothes on, I guess. Is one way to look at it. Yeah, at that era when he was still, he's become more eloquent over time, obviously, but there's so many iconic roles that he's played where he said one-liners like, "Get into the chopper," and other things. And he's, yeah, he's just an icon, an absolute icon from the 80s. We loved him. Honestly, his most interesting role was when he was like Hercules in New York, where I think he had like a handful of speaking roles, and his accent was so thick that you could barely understand him through that Austrian accent. I have the Conan books as well. Robert Howard was fantastic author. No, you don't. Horo the Wise, you do not need to buy the comics. Not when you can get them all online for free. You can fight me on that one, Cooks. I don't know which one is my favorite. I have to sit. It's very hard. Total Recall is such a classic, and it was such a part of my childhood. All right, Lotus Leaves from Uncollected Poems. We are about halfway through. All right, second page. A linnet on the hawthorn spray sang of the glories of the spring, and made the flowering copses ring with gladness for the newborn day. A lark from out the grass I trod flew wildly and was lost to view in the great seamless veil of blue that hangs before the face of God. The willow whispered overhead that death is but a newer life, and that with idle words of strife we bring dishonor on the dead. I took a branch from off the tree, and hawthorn blossoms drenched with dew. I bound them with a spring of you, and made a garland fair to see. I laid the flowers where he lies, warm leaves and flowers on the stone. What joy I had to sit alone till evening broke on tired eyes. Till all the shifting clouds had spun a robe of gold for God to wear, and into seas of purple air sank the bright galley of the sun. Shall I be gladdened for the day? Shall I be gladdened? Yeah, it just reads weird. Shall I be gladdened for the day, and let my inner heart be stirred, and murmuring tree or song of bird, and sorrow at the wild wind's play? Not so. Such idle dreams belong to souls of lesser depth than mine. I feel that I am half divine. I know that I am great and strong. I know that every forest tree by labor rises from the root. I know that none shall gather fruit by sailing on the barren sea. I need to write that down. Not so, such idle dreams belong to souls of lesser depth than mine. I feel that I am half divine. I know that I am great and strong. I feel like that stanza is very much Luca Nasu. That stanza is very Luca to me. Like, not so, such idle dreams belong to souls of lesser depth than mine. Like, the depth of Luca's soul, like the strength of her character. She is but half divine. She is great and strong. Yeah, she's pretty awesome. You guys should check her out if you haven't already. Though I do believe some of you are from her stream, so you already know. All right. This next one is called Wasted Days, from a picture painted by Miss V.T. I wonder who that could have been contextually. A fair, slim boy, not made for this world's pain, with hair of gold, thick clustering round his ears, and longing eyes half veiled by foolish tears, like bluest water seen through mists of rain. Pale cheeks whereon no kiss hath left its stain, red under lip drawn in for fear of love, and white throat whiter than the breast of a dove. Alas, alas, if all should be in vain, cornfields behind and reapers all a row, in weariest labor, toiling wearily, to no sweet sound of laughter or of lute, and careless of the crimson sunset glow, the boy still dreams, nor knows that night is nigh, and in the night-time no man gathers fruit. Interesting. Impressions 1. Le Jardin. I'm gonna have to ask one of my French friends to translate these for me. The lily's withered chalice falls around its rod of dusty gold. Garden. Clutch fallen, thank you. Le Jardin, so the garden. The lily's withered chalice falls around its rod of dusty gold, and from the beech trees on the wold the last wood pigeon coos and calls. The gaudy leonine sunflower hangs black and barren on its stalk. Hi Dan, welcome in. And down the windy garden walk the dead leaves scatter, hour by hour. Pale privet petals, white as milk, are blown into a snowy mass. The roses lie upon the grass like little shreds of crimson silk. Not French, but went a very pretentious sports center called Le Jardin Les Sports. Fair enough. Anyone got a translation for La Mer? Part 2, La Mer. A white mist drifts across the shrouds. A wild moon in this wintry sky gleams like an angry lion's eye out of a mane of tawny clouds. The muffled steersman at the wheel is but a shadow in the gloom. And in the throbbing engine room leap the long rods of polished steel. The shattered storm has left its trace upon this huge and heaving dome, for the thin threads of yellow foam float on the waves like raveled lace. The sea, la mer, is the sea. Under the balcony. I can feel a tightness in my chest because I'm only a month recovered from pneumonia. I can feel a bit of a tightness in my chest. I think I'm going to only read like a couple more poems, yes, poems. And then I will find, hopefully, someone from Gen 2 or Gen 1 seems likely to be in bed. We'll see who's available for a raid to take this whole glorious group of folks to the next lucky, wonderful person in the train. Let's see. Under the Balcony, from Uncollected Poems by Oscar Wilde. Oh, beautiful star with the crimson mouth. Oh, I can tell. This one's gonna be, this one's gonna have a mouthfeel. All right. Stay hydrated for this one, or stay thirsty, depending on your depending on your preference. Oh, beautiful star with the crimson mouth, oh, moon with the brows of gold, rise up from the odorous south, and light for my love her way, lest her little feet should stray on the windy hill and the wold. O beautiful star with the crimson mouth, O moon with the brows of gold, O ship that shakes on the desolate sea, O ship with the wet white sail. Put in to the port to me, for my love and I would go to the land where the daffodils blow in the heart of a violet dale. O ship that shakes on the desolate sea, O ship with the wet white sail. O rapturous bird with the low sweet note, O bird that sings on the spray, sing on from your sing on from your soft brown throat. And my love in her little bed will listen and lift her head from the pillow and come my way. O rapturous bird with the low sweet note, O bird that sits on the spray. O blossom that hangs in the tremulous air, O blossom with lips of snow, come down for my love to wear. You will die on her head in a crown, you will die in a fold of her gown, to her little light heart you will go. O blossom that hangs in the tremulous air, O blossom with lips of snow. Yeah. that one had some zest, a little pesto, something to yes. Thank you for the bits. This has this like flow and ebb and flow to it. And it's like everything beautiful is given to his love, like the light for my love for her way, lest her little feet should stray. For my love I would go to the land where the daffodils blow. Put into port to me, bring her to me, O ship on the desolate sea. O rapturous bird, sing to my little love in her bed, so she will listen and lift her head, and from pillow come my way, come to me. O blossom that hangs in tremulous air, the blossom that is on the tree, crowned with snow, like wearing lips of snow, like dusted, so spring and winter are at war. Come down for my love to wear, and you will die on her head a crown. Again, just giving everything to his love. To her little heart you will go, her love of the crown of blossoms will, bestir the heart of her love. It's just an interesting idea. Let's see, what are we on here? The Harlot's House. Ooh. Okay. This is gonna a little bit spice. I'm just ooh, okay. Interesting. So this is obviously a harlot's house, but I think there's the art of entertainment as much as entertainment, if you catch my drift. So interesting. The Harlot's House, from Uncollected Poems by Oscar Wilde. We caught the tread of dancing feet. We loitered down the moonlit street and stopped beneath the harlot's house. Inside, above the din and fray, we heard the loud musicians play the Trus Liebes Herz of Strauss. Like strange mechanical grotesques, making fantastic arabesques, the shadows raced across the blind. We watched the ghostly dancers spin to sound of horn and violin, like black leaves wheeling in the wind. Like wire-pulled automatons, slim silhouetted skeletons, went sidling through the slow quadrille. They took each other by the hand and danced a stately saraband. Their laughter echoed thin and shrill. Sometimes a clockwork puppet pressed a phantom lover to her breast. Sometimes they seemed to try to sing. Sometimes a horrible marionette came out and smoked its cigarette upon the steps like a live thing. Then, turning to my love, I said, "The dead are dancing with the dead. The dust is whirling with the dust." But she heard the violin and left my side and entered in. Love passed into the house of lust. Then suddenly the tune went false. The dancers wearied of the waltz. The shadows ceased to wheel and whirl. And down the long and silent street, the dawn with silver sandaled feet crept like a frightened girl. Yeah, that's some interesting imagery there. Will we be able to finish this book today? I don't know. Maybe. We'll try. We still have like ages before we need to run an ad, so maybe I could finish this today, and that would free me up for some Christmassy attunement next week. That would be nice. I'd like to read some Christmas stories for you all on Christmas Day. I am neither obligated to deal with family, because Mom has decided family shall get together on Saturday, and I am not obligated to work, so I shall read, as one does. Let's see. So, Le Jardin des Tuileries. Interesting. Yeah, free of holiday obligations, for good or ill, yes. This winter air is keen and cold, but round my chair the children run like little things of dancing gold. Sometimes about the painted kiosk the mimic soldiers strut and stride. Sometimes the blue-eyed brigands hide in the bleak tangles of the bosque, and sometimes while the old nurse cons her book they steal across the square, and launch their paper navies where huge Triton writhes in greenish bronze. In greenish blondes, oh no. Can you imagine having your book stolen so that pages may be ripped out and turned into paper navies? Little boats made of pages of something like this. Oh, it would break my heart. It would be funny, but it would also be sad. And now in mimic flight they flee, and now they rush a boisterous band. And tiny hand on tiny hand climb up the black and leafless tree. Ah, cruel tree, if I were you. And children climbed me for their sake, though it be winter, I would break into spring blossoms white and blue. It's kind of pretty. Considering I hate even breaking the spines on my books, tearing out pages would give me an annual. Yeah. A couple of sessions back on the Wild Seas of Terra, the D&D campaign, we went to a city where a bookseller was selling books by the chapter. Not the whole book. Taking books, putting them spine down into a paper cutter and cutting out the chapters. It broke my heart. That is insane behavior, but it's D&D, so, you know, RP. So my character hates that, like hates the destruction of books, and also, so that's both IRL and in-game, also hates dolls. We don't need to get into it. But if you're there for the next session on the 28th, yeah, more dolls, more problems. On the recent sale by auction of Keats' love letters. Oh, he had an opinion about this. These are the letters which Endymion wrote to one he loved in secret and apart. And now the brawlers of the auction mart bargain and bid for each poor blotted note. Aye, for each separate pulse of passion quote the merchant's price. I think they love not art, who break the crystal of a poet's heart, that small and sickly eyes may glare and gloat. Is it not said that many years ago, in a far eastern town, some soldiers ran with torches through the midnight and began to wrangle for mean raiment and to throw dice for the garments of a wretched man, not knowing the god's wonder or his woe? The new remorse. The sin was mine, I did not understand, so now is music prisoned in her cave, save where some ebbing desultory wave frets with its restless whirls this meagre strand, and in the withered hollow of this land hath summer dug herself so deep a grave that hardly can the leaden willow crave one silver blossom from keen winter's hand. But who is this who cometh by the shore? Nay, love, look up and wonder, who is this who cometh in dyed garments from the south? It is thy new-found lord, and he shall kiss the yet unravished roses of thy mouth, and I shall weep and worship as before. The yet unravished roses of thy mouth. Ooh la la. Fantasies Decoratives 1. Les Panneaux. Under the rose tree's dancing shade, there stands a little ivory girl, pulling the leaves of pink and pearl with pale green nails of polished jade. The red leaves fall upon the mold. The white leaves flutter one by one, down to a blue bowl where the sun, like a great dragon, writhes in gold. The white leaves float upon the air, the red leaves flutter idly down. Some fall upon her yellow gown, and some upon her raven hair. She takes an amber lute and sings, and as she sings, a silver crane begins his scarlet neck to strain and flap his burnished metal wings. She takes a lute of amber bright, and from the thicket where he lies, her lover with his almond eyes watches her movements in delight. And now she gives a cry of fear, and tiny tears begin to start. A thorn has wounded with its dart the pink-veined seashell of her ear. And now she laughs a merry note. There has fallen a petal of the rose, just where the yellow satin shows the blue-veined flower of her throat. With pale green nails of polished jade, pulling the leaves of pink and pearl, there stands a little ivory girl under the rose tree's dancing shade. Pretty imagery. The man knew how to create an image with the way he uses words. He just delicately strings them like a wind chime fluttering in the air. Just, beautiful little fluttery sounds and songs, and just beautiful. Les ballons. Ballons? I'm going to say balloons, but les ballons. Against these turbid turquoise skies, the light and luminous balloons, I was right, dip and drift like satin moons, drift like silken butterflies. Reel with every windy gust, rise and reel like dancing girls, float like strange transparent pearls, fall and float like silver dust. Now to the low leaves they cling, each with coy, fantastic pose, each a petal of a rose, straining at a gossamer string. Then to the tall trees they climb like thin globes of amethyst, wandering opals keeping tryst with rubies of the lime. Canzonette. I have no store of griffin-guarded gold. Now, as before, bare is the shepherd's fold. Rubies nor pearls have I to gem thy throat, yet woodland girls have loved the shepherd's note. Then pluck a reed and bid me sing to thee, for I would feed thine ears with melody. Who art more fair than fairest fleur de lis, more sweet and rare than sweetest ambergris. But dost thou, it should be ambergris. That would make sense. Then pluck a reed and bid me sing to thee, for I would feed thine ears with melody. Who art more fair than fairest fleur de lis, more sweet and rare than sweetest ambergris. What dost thou fear? Young Hyacinth is slain. Pan is not here, and will not come again, nor horned fawn treads down the yellow leaves. No god at dawn steals through the olive trees. Hylas is dead, nor will he ever divine those little red rose-petaled lips of thine. On the high hill no ivory dryads play, silver and still sinks the sad autumn day. Big Sag. symphony in yellow. An omnibus across the bridge crawls like a yellow butterfly, and here and there a passerby shows like a little restless midge. Big barges full of yellow hay are moved against the shadowy wharf, and like a yellow silken scarf, the thick fog hangs along the quay. The yellow leaves begin to fade and flutter from the temple elms, and at my feet the pale green Thames lies like a rod of rippled jade. In the forest. Out of the midwoods twilight, into the meadow's dawn, ivory-limbed and brown-eyed flashes my fawn. He skips through the copses singing, and his shadow dances along, and I know not which I should follow, shadow or song. O hunter, snare me his shadow, O nightingale, catch me his strain, else moonstruck with music and madness, I track him in vain. With a copy of A House of Pomegranates. Go, little book, to him who, on a lute with horns of pearl, sang of the white feet of the golden girl, and bid him look into thy pages. It may hap that he may find the golden maidens dance through thee. To LL. Could we dig up this long buried treasure, were it worth the pleasure, we never could learn love's song. We are parted too long. Could the passionate past that is fled call back its dead? Could we live it all over again, were it worth the pain? I remember we used to meet by an ivied seat, and you warbled each pretty word with the air of a bird, and your voice had a quaver in it, just like a linnet, and shook as the blackbird's throat with its last big note. And your eyes, they were green and gray like an April day, but lit into amethyst when I stooped and kissed. And your mouth, it would never smile for a long, long while, then it rippled all over with laughter 5 minutes after. You are always afraid of a shower, just like a flower. I remember you started and ran when the rain began. I remember I could never catch you. I remember I never could catch you, for no one could match you. You had wonderful, luminous, fleet little wings to your feet. Welcome in, Carolus. I remember your hair. Did I tie it? For it always ran riot, like a tangled sunbeam of gold. These things are old. I remember so well the room and the lilac bloom that beat at the dripping pane and the warm June rain. And the color of your gown, it was amber brown, and 2 yellow satin bows from your shoulders rose. And the handkerchief of French lace which you held to your face had a small tear left a stain, or was it the rain? On your hand as it waved adieu, there were veins of blue. In your voice as it said goodbye was a petulant cry. You have only wasted your life. Ah, that was the knife. When I rushed through the garden gate, it was all too late. Welcome in, Joker Bravo. Could we live it over again? Were it worth the pain? Could the passionate past that is fled call back its dead? Well, if my heart must break, Dear love, for your sake, it will break in music, I know. Poets' hearts break so. But strange that I was not told that the brain can hold in a tiny ivory cell God's heaven and hell. Poems in prose. Let's see. So we
Hydrate or
have...
dihydrate?
Yes. It's starting to get a little raspy. It's a little rough around the edges. Yeah, my voice is starting to... I need more agua. I always start these streams with 32 ounces of water, and I inevitably, in the span of 3 hours, finish 32 ounces of water. Every time. Between redeems and my own thirst, it adds up quick. Okay, so we are on to poems and prose, which is, as I can tell, bear with me, the last part of the poetry, I believe. You know what they say. What do they say, Lasada? Hydrate or dihydrate. You are not wrong. Let's see. Oh, it is not the last part. It is the second to last part. But then, you know, I really want to finish this today. So what I'm going to do, I was hoping to get through without a singular ad, but I need to go hydrate and get more water. But there's so little left in the book. There's so little left. That I really just want to knock this out today, because we're on page 297. So somebody write that down. And we would be finished. These are all translations. And then, yep. So 353 or 373 for the, whatchamacallit. So 297 to 329. Well, less if we want to get technical. 327. So 297 to 327. That's 30 pages. So I say we will crush it and we'll just finish it today, and that frees us up for oh, I broke it. Oh no. It didn't like that apparently. Haha. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and do an ad break real quick. I'm gonna refill my water bottle while I'm gone, and then when we come back, we're gonna finish the last few pages of this incredible poetry, and then we will check another amazing poet off our list, and that frees us up for other authors, which I have an extensive list. I don't know what I want to pick. I've been contemplating Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier for a bit. Jane Eyre would be good as well. Court of King Arthur fantasies. I'm gonna wait until next year for King Arthur, which next year is very soon, so it's not like it's gonna be that far away. Could do some Hamilton Wright fairy tales. Pablo Neruda, amazing poet. I don't know, it's hard to choose. It's always hard to choose which author to do next. Okay, hang tight everyone. I will be back in just a couple minutes. I'm going to refill my water, use the restroom, and then yeah, we'll cook through the last couple pages and be done. And Oscar Wilde will be fini. So I will be right back. And we should be back. There we go. And we are into the nitty-gritty of the last, second to last, poems and prose. So, let's see here. We've got, and just kind of keep an eye on it. Ooh, Tybo is reading, or doing... putting Underrealm in a content house for content. That would be really cute. And then Rosita is doing indie horror game Rat Shaker. Oh, I saw previews for that. It's like you have to throttle the rat to make him. Yep, that makes sense. We'll see where we are after we finish today, because it would be nice to go visit somebody. Hydrate or dihydrate?
Hydrate or dihydrate?
Haha! I said it first! I win! Yes, I will. Tybo is indeed great people. She is the incredible and talented salamander nurse VTuber. And is super nice. Super nice, also slightly mean, but in a good way. Like a, you've been a very naughty boy kind of way. Anyway, we are reading The Artist. Yes, The Artist. As my cat cries in the distance. One evening there came into his soul the desire to fashion an image of the pleasure that abideth for a moment, and he went forth into the world to look for bronze, for he could only think in bronze. But all the bronze of the world, the whole world, had disappeared, nor anywhere in the whole world was there any bronze to be found, save only the bronze of the image of the sorrow that endureth forever. Now, this image he had himself, and with his own hands fashioned, and had set it on the tomb of the one thing he had loved in life. On the tomb of the dead thing he had most loved had he set this image of his own fashioning, that it might serve as a sign of the love of man that dieth not, and a symbol of the sorrow of man that endureth forever. And in the whole world there was no other bronze save the bronze of this image. And he took the image he had fashioned, and set it in a great furnace, and gave it to the fire. And out of the bronze of the image of the sorrows that endureth forever, he fashioned an image of the pleasure that abideth for a moment. That's interesting. The image above the tomb of the thing that he had loved the most was a bronzed image of the sorrow that endureth forever. So obviously his sorrow did not continue to endure if the pleasure that abideth for a moment so easily replaced it. That's just interesting. The doer of God. Interesting. Part 2. The doer of good. It was night time, and he was alone, and he saw afar the walls of a round city, and went towards the city. And when he came near, he heard within the city the tread of the feet of joy, and the laughter of the mouth of gladness, and the loud noise of many lutes. And he knocked at the gate, and certain of the gatekeepers opened to him. And he beheld a house that was of marble, and had fair pillars of marble before it. The pillars were hung with garlands, and within and without there were torches of cedar. Oh, that would smell so good. And he entered the house. And when he had passed through the hall of... I don't know how to... it's a type of stone, chalcedony. Can I get a exclamation point word in chat, please? But I don't know how to... I spelled it correctly. Pronounce it, however. Bless. Oh, it's two pronunciations. Chalcedony. Chalcedony or Chalcedony. 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 A microcrystalline, translucent variety of quartz, often milky or grayish. Chalcedony. Chalcedony. I like that. I like that pronunciation better. And when he had passed through the hall of Chalcedony and the hall of Jasper, and reached the long hall of feasting, he saw, lying on a couch of sea purple, one whose hair was crowned with red roses and whose lips were red with wine. Fun fact, the sea purple was made from little sea urchin shells to make that purple, that it has a kind of almost reddish violet hue. Very expensive to manufacture into fabric. And he went behind him and touched him on the shoulder and said to him, "Why do you live like this?" And the young man turned round and recognized him and made answer and said, "But I was a leper once, and you healed me. How else should I live?" And he passed out of the house and went again into the street. And after a little while he saw one whose face and raiment were painted, and whose feet were shod with pearls. And behind her came slowly as a hunter a young man who wore a cloak of two colors. Now the face of the woman was as the fair face of an idol, and the eyes of the young man were bright with lust. And he followed swiftly, and touched the hand of the young man, and said to him, "Why do you look at this woman, and in such wise?" And the young man turned round, and recognized him, and said, "But I was blind once, and you gave me sight. At what else should I look?" And he ran forward and touched the painted raiment of the woman, and said to her, "Is there no other way in which to walk, save the way of sin?" And the woman turned round and recognized him, and laughed, and said, "But you forgave me of my sins, and the way is a pleasant way." And he passed out of the city. And when he had passed out of the city, he saw seated by the roadside a young man who was weeping. And he went towards him and touched the long locks of his hair, and said to him, "Why are you weeping?" And the young man looked up and recognized him, and made answer, "But I was dead once, and you raised me from the dead. What else should I do but weep?" That's interesting. That's an interesting take. That in this poem, he is referring to, Jesus, healing the sick and curing the blind and raising the dead, apparently. And then we continue on the path that we've set for ourselves. Which, incidentally, if you have not read or were not here when I read The Picture of Dorian Gray, also by Oscar Wilde, it really sets like that sense of like we continue down the paths that we make and lead to inevitable ends and fate, perhaps. It's an interesting idea here. This, I guess it would be allegory, metaphor. I always get them confused. You ever know so much that you don't know anything at all? That's how I feel regularly. Lord, I probably need sugar. Cookie. The way Biscoffs dissolve in coffee is just sinfully delicious. Part 3. The Disciple. When Narcissus died, the pool of his pleasure changed from a cup of sweet waters into a cup of salt tears, and the Oreads came weeping through the woodland that they might sing to the pool and give it comfort. And when they saw that the pool had changed from a cup of sweet waters into a cup of salt tears, they loosened the green tresses of their hair and cried to the pool and said, we do not wonder that you should mourn in this manner for Narcissus, so beautiful was he. But was Narcissus beautiful? Said the pool. Who should know that better than you? Answered the Oreads. Us did he ever pass by, but you he sought for, and would lie on your banks and look down at you, and in the mirror of your waters he would mirror his own beauty. And the pool answered, but I loved Narcissus, because as he lay on my banks and looked down at me, in the mirror of his eyes I saw ever my own beauty mirrored. A reflection of a reflection. Interesting. The Master, Part 4. Now, when the darkness came over the earth, Joseph of Arimathea, having lighted a torch of pine wood, passed down from the hill into the valley, for he had business in his own home. And kneeling on the flint stones of the valley of desolation, he saw a young man who was naked and weeping. His hair was the color of honey, and his body was as a white flower. But he had wounded his body with thorns, and on his hair had he set ashes as a crown. And he, who had great possessions, said to the young man who was naked and weeping, I do not wonder that your sorrow is so great, for surely he was a just man. And the young man answered, it was not for him that I am weeping, but for myself. I too have changed water into wine, and I have healed the leper and given sight to the blind. I have walked upon the waters, and from the dwellers in the tombs I have cast out devils. I have fed the hungry in the desert where there was no food, and I have raised the dead from their narrow houses, and at my bidding, and before a great multitude of people, a barren fig tree withered away. All things that this man has done, I have done also, and yet they have not crucified me. Yeah, okay. So it seems that these poems and prose are less poems, more than like short stories perhaps, which one of these days I'll get around to reading. He wrote a number of plays. He was a playwright amongst his other accomplishments. Huge fan of theater and plays and all things beautiful. So it's interesting to see his other written works, because The Picture of Dorian Gray is the only full-length novel that I'm aware exists that he released and published, which is an absolute shame, because the way he wrote was just so beautiful, which you can see here. Let's see. The House of Judgment. And there was silence in the house of judgment, and man came naked before God. Speak of God, and Hig shows up. Hi, Hig. Welcome in. Greetings. Seasonal greetings, in fact. Greasings. And God opened the book of the life of the man, and God said to the man, Thy life hath been evil, and thou hast shown cruelty to those who were in need of succor, and to those who lacked help thou hast been bitter and hard of heart. The poor called to thee, and thou didst not hearken, and thine ears were closed to the cry of my afflicted. The inheritance of the fatherless thou didst take unto thyself, and thou didst send the foxes into the vineyard of thy neighbor's field. Thou didst take the bread of the children and give it to the dogs to eat, and my lepers who lived in the marshes and were at peace and praised me, thou didst drive forth onto the highways and on mine earth out of which I made thee. Thou didst spill innocent blood. And the man made answer and said, Even so did I. And again God opened the book of life of the man. And God said to the man, Thy life hath been evil, and the beauty I have shown thou hast sought for, and the good I have hidden thou didst pass by. The walls of thy chamber were painted with images, and from the bed of thine abominations thou didst rise up to the sound of flutes. Thou didst build 7 altars to the sins I have suffered, and didst eat of the things that may not be eaten. And the purple of thy raiment was broidered with the 3 signs of shame. Thine idols were neither of gold nor silver that endure, but of flesh that dieth. Thou didst stain their hair with perfumes, and put pomegranates in their hands. Thou didst stain their feet with saffron, and spread carpets before them with antimony. Thou didst stain their eyelids, and their bodies thou didst smear with myrrh. Thou didst bow thyself to the ground before them, and the thrones of thine idols were set in the sun. Thou didst show to the sun thy shame, and to the moon thy madness. And the man made answer and said, Even so did I. And a third time God opened the book of life of the man, and God said to the man, Evil hath been thy life, and with evil didst thou requite good, and with wrongdoing kindness. The hands that fed thee thou didst wound, and the breast that gave thee suck thou didst despise. He who came to thee with water went away thirsting, and the outlawed men who hid thee in their tents at night thou didst betray before dawn. Thine enemy who spared thee thou didst snare in an ambush, and the friend who walked with thee thou didst sell for a price, and to those who brought thee love thou didst ever give lust in thy turn. And the man made answer and said, Even so did I. And God closed the book of life of the man, and said, Surely I will send thee into hell, even into hell will I send thee. And the man cried out, Thou canst not. And God said to the man, Wherefore can I not send thee to hell, and for what reason? Because in hell have I always lived, answered the man. And there was silence in the house of judgment. And after a space God spake and said to the man, Seeing that I may not send thee into hell, surely I will send thee unto heaven. Even unto heaven will I send thee. And the man cried out, Thou canst not. And God said to the man, Wherefore can I not send thee unto heaven, and for what reason? Because never and in no place have I been able to imagine it, answered the man. And there was silence in the house of judgment. Interesting. Not my thing, but interesting. something to think about, I suppose. Part 6, The Teacher of Wisdom. Maybe I could be a teacher of wisdom, but we'll see what this lesson will be. From his childhood he had been as one filled with a perfect knowledge of God, and even while he was yet but a lad, many of the saints, as well as certain holy women who dwelt in the free city of his birth, had been stirred to much wonder by the grave wisdom of his answers. And when his parents had given him the robe and the ring of manhood, he kissed them and left them and went out into the world that he might speak to the world about God. For there were at that time many in the world who either knew not God at all, but had but an incomplete knowledge of him, or worshipped the false gods who dwell in groves and have no care of their worshippers. And he set his face to the sun and journeyed, walking without sandals, as he had seen the saints walk, and carrying at his girdle a leathern wallet and a little water bottle of burnt clay. And as he walked along the highway, he was full of the joy that comes from the perfect knowledge of God. And he sang praises unto God without ceasing, and after a time he reached a strange land in which there were many cities, and he passed through 11 cities, and some of these cities were in valleys, and others were by the banks of great rivers, and others were set on hills, and in each city he found a disciple who loved him and followed him, and a great multitude also of people followed him from each city, and the knowledge of God spread in the whole land, and many of the rulers were converted, and the priests of the temples in which there were idols found that half of their gain was gone, and when they beat upon their drums at noon, none or but a few came with peacocks and with offerings of flesh, as had been the custom of the land before his coming. And yet, the more the people followed him, and the greater the number of his disciples, the greater became his sorrow. And he knew not why his sorrow was so great, for he spake ever about God, and out of the fullness of that perfect knowledge of God, which God had himself given to him. And one evening he passed out of the 11th city, which was a city of Armenia, and his disciples and a great crowd of people followed after him. He went up onto a mountain and sat down on a rock that was on the mountain, and his disciples stood round him, and the multitude knelt in the valley. And he bowed his head on his hands and wept, and said to his soul, "Why is it that I am full of sorrow and fear, and that each of my disciples is as an enemy that walks to the noonday?" And his soul answered him and said, "God filled thee with the perfect knowledge of himself, and thou hast given this knowledge away to others. The pearl of great price thou hast divided, and the vesture without seam thou hast parted asunder. He who giveth away wisdom robbeth himself. He is as one who giveth his treasure to a robber. Is not God wiser than thou art? Who art thou to give away the secret that God hath told thee? I was rich once, and thou hast made me poor. Once I saw God, and now thou hast hidden him from me." What a concept. And he wept again, for he knew that his soul spake truth to him, and that he had given to others the perfect knowledge of God. And that he was as one clinging to the skirts of God, and that his faith was leaving him by reason of the number of those who believed in him. And he said to himself, "I will talk no more about God. He who giveth away wisdom robbeth himself." And after the space of some hours his disciples came near him, and bowed themselves to the ground, and said, "Master, talk to us about God, for thou hast the perfect knowledge of God, and no man save thee hath this knowledge." And he answered them and said, "I will talk to you about all other things that are in heaven and on earth, but about God I will not talk to you. neither now nor at any time will I talk to you about God. And they were wroth with him, and said to him, Thou hast led us into the desert that we might hearken to thee. Wilt thou send us away hungry, and the great multitude that thou hast made to follow thee? And he answered them and said, I will not talk to you about God. And the multitude murmured against him and said to him, Thou hast led us into the desert, and hast given us no food to eat. Talk to us about God, and it will suffice us. But he answered them not a word, for he knew that if he spake to them about God, he would give away his treasure. And his disciples went away sadly, and the multitude of people returned to their homes, and many died on the way. And when he was alone, he rose up and set his face to the moon, and journeyed for 7 moons, speaking to no man, nor making any answer. And when the 7th moon had waned, he reached that desert, which is the desert of the great river. And having found a cavern in which a centaur had once dwelt, he took it for his place of dwelling, and made himself a mat of reeds, on which to lie, and became a hermit. And every hour the hermit praised God that he had suffered for him to keep some knowledge of him and of his wonderful greatness. Now, one evening, as the hermit was seated before the cavern in which he had made his place of dwelling, he beheld a young man of evil and beautiful face, who passed by in mean apparel and with empty hands. Every evening with empty hands the young man passed by, and every morning he returned with his hands full of purple and pearls. I met God once, as a dragon Highlander who was traveled the cosmos for eons. I was shown the creation and work which is now humanity. The big lizard, yeah, fair enough. For he was a robber, and robbed the caravans of the merchants. And the hermit looked at him and pitied him. But he spake not a word, for he knew that he who speaks a word loses his faith. And one morning, as the young man returned, his hands full of purple and pearls, he stopped and frowned, and stamped his foot upon the sand, and said to the hermit, Why do you look at me ever in this manner as I pass by? What is it that I see in your eyes? For no man has looked at me before in this manner, and the thing is as a thorn and a trouble to me. And the hermit answered him and said, What you see in my eyes is pity. Pity is what looks out at you from my eyes. And the young man laughed with scorn, and cried to the hermit in a bitter voice, and said to him, I have purple and pearls in my hands, and you have but a mat of reeds on which to lie. What pity should you have for me, and for what reason have you this pity? I have pity for you, said the hermit, because you have no knowledge of God. And is this knowledge of God a precious thing? Asked the young man, and he came close to the mouth of the cavern. It is more precious than all the purple and pearls of the world, answered the hermit. And have you got it? Said the young robber, and he came closer still. Once, indeed, answered the hermit, I possessed the perfect knowledge of God, but in my foolishness I parted with it, and divided it amongst others. Yet even now in such knowledge as remains to me more precious than purple or pearls. And when the young robber heard this, he threw away the purple and the pearls that he was bearing in his hands, and drawing a sharp sword of curved steel, he said to the hermit, Give me forthwith this knowledge of God that you possess, or I will surely slay you. Wherefore should I not slay him who has a treasure greater than my treasure? And the hermit spread out his arms and said, Were it not better for me to go unto the outermost courts of God and praise him, than to live in the world have no knowledge of him? Slay me, if that be your desire, but I will not give away my knowledge of God. And the young robber knelt down and besought him, But the hermit would not talk to him about God, nor give him his treasure. And the young robber rose up and said to the hermit, "Be it as you will. As for myself, I will go to the city of the 7 sins, that is but 3 days' journey from this place, and for my purple they will give me pleasure, and for my pearls they will sell me joy." And he took up the purple and the pearls, and went swiftly away. And the hermit cried out, and followed him, and besought him. For the space of 3 days he followed the young robber on the road, and entreated him to return, nor to enter into the city of the 7 sins. And ever and anon the young robber looked back at the hermit, and called to him, and said, "Will you give me this knowledge of God, which is more precious than purple and pearls? If you will give me that, I will not enter the city." And ever did the hermit answer, "All things that I have I will give thee, save that one thing only. For that thing is not lawful for me to give away." And in the twilight of the 3rd day they came nigh to the great scarlet gates of the city of the 7 sins, and from the city there came the sound of much laughter. And the young robber laughed in answer, and sought to knock at the gate. And as he did so, the hermit ran forward, and caught him by the skirts of his raiment, and said to him, "Stretch forth your hands, and set your arms around my neck. Put your ear close to my lips, and I will give you what remains to me of the knowledge of God." And the young robber stopped. And when the hermit had given away his knowledge of God, he fell upon the ground and wept, and a great darkness hid from him the city and the young robber, so that he saw them no more. And as he lay there weeping, he was aware of one who was standing beside him, and he who was standing beside him had feet of brass and hair like fine wool. And he raised the hermit up, and said to him, "Before this time thou hadst the perfect knowledge of God, now thou shalt have the perfect love of God. Wherefore art thou weeping?" And he kissed him. What a twist! So this is the last part of the book. This is the translation section. As you can hear in my voice, I am getting rather raspy. So I'm doing my best. But this is a good time to take a second to stretch. Big stretch. All the stretch.
Hydrate or dihydrate?
5 subscriptions to the community.
Snack time!
Okay. Head pats. Aw, Hikara, welcome in. Oh, I wasn't paying attention. Thank you. Thank you for the gifted subs. I don't even know how many is it this time? 5? Oh my gosh. Hikara, thank you. Ooh, I like that emote, Jules. Cheers. That's clever. I like that. A drinking emote. Not that I drink that much, but still. Very nice. Thank you very much for your generosity. And, let's see. Ty the Wolf King, Troubled Phantom, Creative Garden, Trist from Gen 1 or Gen 2, and Basin Mason. Please enjoy your subs, gifted subs from Hikara. It's a universal emote. Oh, good to know. Let's see. So the final part of this book, the translations. These ones, oh, there's some Greek in there. Well, we'll do our best. Chorus of Cloud Maidens. Cloud maidens that float on forever, dew-sprinkled, fleet bodies and fair, let us rise from our sire's loud river. Great ocean, and soar through the air to the peaks of the pine-covered mountains where the pines hang on tresses of hair. Let us seek the watchtowers undaunted, where the well-watered cornfields abound, and through murmurs of rivers nymph-haunted, the songs of the sea waves resound, and the sun and the sky never wearies of spreading his radiance around. Let us cast off the haze of the mists from our band, till with far-seeing gaze we may look on the land. Another Greek name that I cannot pronounce. Oh dear. Cloud maidens that bring the rain shower to the palace-loved land, let us wing to the land of stout heroes and power, where Cecrops was hero and king, where honor and silence is given to the mysteries that none may declare, where are gifts to the high gods in heaven, when the house of the gods is laid bare, where are lofty roofed temples and statues well carven and fair, where are feasts to the happy immortals when the sacred procession draws near, where garlands make bright the bright portals at all seasons and months in the year, and when spring days are here, when we tread to the wine god a measure, in the bacchanal dance and in pleasure, with the contests of sweet singing choirs and the crash of loud lyres. Yeah, there we go. Not to continue the hype train, but to gift more subs to all of my friends. So Almontis, Valen, Silly, Biker, Vivicinta. I hope you all enjoy your gifted subs. If we can hit... Yeah, we're still a ways away. I doubt we're going to get there. But maybe in January we can hit 115, and then we'll be able to do... I think it's another emote, which I'm still waiting to hear back from Yuki. So if Yuki's able to do those other emotes, it'll be grand. But we'll see how it goes. Anyway, thank you all for being here for the hype train. Alright, so got to level 2, I think. Nice. Alright. Okay. Another Greek name I cannot say. My goodness, I feel bad that I don't know what these words are, but we do our best. Song sung by captive women of Troy. On the sea beach at Aulis, while the Achaeans were there storm-bound through the wrath of dishonored Achilles, and waiting for a fair wind to bring them home. So this one is probably supposed to be set to music, which I do not have, and we can only surmise what it's supposed to be. O fair wind blowing from the sea, who through the dark and mist dost guide the ships that on the billows ride, unto what land, ah, misery, shall I be borne across that stormy wave? Across what stormy wave? Or to whose house a purchased slave? O wind, O sea wind blowing fair and fast, is it unto the Dorian strand, or to those far and fabled shores, where great Apidanus outpours his streams upon the fertile land? Or shall I tread the Pythian sand, borne by the swift breath of the blast? Another one. O blowing wind, you bring my sorrow near, for surely born with splashing of the oar, and hidden in some galley prison drear, I shall be led unto the distant shore. where the tall palm trees first took root and made with clustering laurel leaves a pleasant shade for Leto, when with travail great she bore a god and goddess in love's bitter fight, her body's anguish and her soul's delight. It may be in Delos, encircled of seas, I shall sing with some maids from the Cyclades. My goodness. It may be in Delos, encircled of seas, I shall sing with some maids from Cyclades, of Artemis goddess and queen and maiden, sing of the gold in her hair heavy laden, sing of her hunting, her arrows and bow, and in singing find solace from weeping and woe. Oof. Fast singing I cannot do. Another one. I'm gonna say it's like epic, maybe? I'm not really sure. Or it may be my bitter doom to stand a handmaid at the loom in distant Athens of supreme renown, and weave some wondrous tapestry, or work in bright embroidery upon the crocus-flowered robe and saffron-colored gown, the flying horses wrought in gold, the silver chariot onward rolled, that bears Athena through the town, or the warring giants that strove to climb from earth to heaven to reign as kings, and Zeus the conquering son of time, borne on the hurricane's eagle wings, and the lightning flame, the bolts that fell from the risen cloud at the gods' behest, and hurled the rebels to darkness of hell, to a sleep without slumber, or waking, or rest. Another one. Alas, our children's sorrow and their pain in slavery. Alas, our warrior sighs nobly slain for liberty. Alas, our country's glory in the name of Troy's fair town, by the lances and the fighting and the flame tall Troy is down. I shall pass with my soul overladen to a land far away and unseen, for Asia is slave and handmaiden, Europa is mistress and queen. Without love, or love's holiest treasure, I shall pass into Hades abhorred, to the grave as my chamber of pleasure, to death as my lover and lord. A fragment from the Agamemnon of Aeschylus. Oh my goodness. I'm dying. Will it ever end? I do not know. Yes, it will. We're almost too far. It's forever. Okay. From a fragment from the Agamemnon of Aeschylus. Lines 1140 through 1173. The scene is the courtyard of the palace of Argos. Agamemnon has already entered the house of doom, and Clytemnestra has followed close on his heels. Cassandra is left alone upon the stage. The conscious terror of death and the burden of prophecy lie heavy upon her. Terrible signs and visions greet her approach. She sees blood upon the lintel, and the smell of blood scares her. As some bird from the door, the ghosts of the murdered children come to mourn with her. Her second sight pierces the palace walls. She sees the fatal bath, the trammeling net, and the axe sharpened for her own ruin and her lord's. But not even in the hour of her last anguish is Apollo merciful. Her warnings are unheeded, her prophetic utterances made mock of. The orchestra is filled with a chorus of old men, weak, foolish, irresolute. They do not believe the weird woman of mystery till the hour for help is past, and the cry of Agamemnon echoes from the house. "Oh me, I am stricken with a stroke of death." Chorus. Thy prophecies are but a lying tale, for cruel gods have brought thee to this state, and of thyself and thine own wretched fate sing you this song and these unhallowed lays, like the brown bird of grief insatiate, crying for sorrow of its dreary days, crying for Ittis, Ittis in the vale, the nightingale, the nightingale. Cassandra. Yet I would that to me they had given the fate of that singer so clear, fleet wings to fly up unto heaven, away from all mourning and fear, for ruin and slaughter await me. The cleaving of sword and the spear. The cleaving with sword and the spear. Chorus. Whence come these crowding fancies on thy brain, sent by some god it may be, yet for naught? Why dost thou sing with evil-tongued refrain, moulding thy terrors to this hideous strain? With shrill, sad cries, as if by death distraught, why dost thou tread that path of prophecy, where upon either hand landmarks forever stand, with horrid legend for all men to see? Cassandra. O bitter bridegroom, who didst bear ruin to those that loved thee true, O holy stream Scamander, where with gentle nurturement I grew, in the first days when life and love were new. And now, it seems that I must lie in the dark land that never sees the sun. Sing my sad songs of fruitless prophecy by the black stream Cocytus that doth run through long, low hills of dreary Acheron. Chorus. Ah, but thy word is clear, even a child among men, even a child might see what is lying hidden here. Ah, I am smitten deep to the heart with a deadly blow at the evil fate of the maid, at the cry of her song of woe. Sorrows for her to bear, wonders for me to hear. Cassandra. O my poor land, laid waste with flame and fire, O ruined city overthrown by fate! Ah, what availed the offerings of my sire to keep the foreign foemen from the gate? Ah, what availed the herds of pasturing kine to save my country from the wrath divine? Ah, neither prayer nor priest availed aught, nor the strong captains that so stoutly fought, for the tall town lies desolate and low, and I, the singer of this song of woe, know by the fire burning in my brain that death, the healer of all earthly pain, is close at hand. I will not shirk the blow. So that's where art, inspiring art. So he wrote this chorus and refrain from Cassandra, from her experiences from that epic, from Agamemnon's epic and story. Interesting. And we are here. We ballin'. We're so close. We're 4 pages away from finishing the poetical work of Oscar Wilde. A little bit sad. I'm a little teary-eyed, I'm not gonna lie. It's hard. Sen, artistry, or the artist's dream, from the Polish of Madame Helena Modjeska. I too have had my dreams, known indeed the crowded visions of a fiery youth which haunt me still. Methought that once I lay within some garden close, what time the spring breaks like a bird from winter, and the sky is sapphire vaulted. The pure air was soft, and the deep grass I lay on soft as air. The strange and secret life of the young trees swelled in the green and tender bark, or burst to buds of sheathed emerald. Violets peered from their nooks of hiding, half afraid of their own loveliness. The vermeil rose, opened its heart, and the bright star flower shone like a star of morning. Butterflies, in painted liveries of brown and gold, took the shy bluebells as their pavilions and seats of pleasance. Overheard a bird made snow of all the blossoms as it flew to charm the woods with singing. The whole world seemed waking to delight. Indeed, Ken, we're in the last 3 pages. And yet, my soul was filled with leaden heaviness. I had no joy in nature. What to me, ambition's slave, was crimson-stained rose or the gold-sceptered crocus. The bright bird sang out of tune for me, and the sweet flower seemed but a pageant and an unreal show that mocked my heart, for like the fabled snake that stings itself to anguish, so I lay, self-tortured, self-tormented. The day crept, unheeded on the dial, till the sun dropped purple-sailed into the gorgeous east, when from the fiery heart of that great orb came one whose shape of beauty far outshone the most bright vision of this common earth. Girt was she in a robe more white than flame, or furnace-heated brass upon her head. She bare a laurel crown, and, like a star that falls from the high heavens, suddenly passed to my side. Then, kneeling low, I cried, O much desired, O long waited for, immortal glory, great world conqueror. Oh, let me not die crownless once, at least let thine imperial laurels bind my brows, ignoble else. Once let the clarion note and trump of loud ambition sound my name, and for the rest I care not. Then to me, in gentle voice, the angel made reply, Child, ignorant of the true happiness, nor knowing life's best wisdom, thou wert made for light and love and laughter, not to waste thy youth in shooting arrows at the sun, or nurturing that ambition in thy soul whose deadly poison will infect thy heart, marring all joy and gladness. Tarry here, in the sweet confines of this garden close, whose level meads and glades delectable invite for pleasure the wild bird that wakes. These silent dells with sudden melody shall be thy playmate, and each flower that blows shall twine itself unbidden in thy hair. Garland, more meet for thee than the dread weight of glory's laurel wreath. Ah, fruitless gifts! I cried, unheeding of her prudent word, are all such mortal flowers, whose brief lives are bounded by the dawn and setting sun. The anger of the noon can wound the rose, and the rain rob the crocus of its gold. But thine immortal coronal of fame, thy crown of deathless laurel, this alone age cannot harm, nor winter's icy tooth pierce to its hurt, nor common things profane. Good night, Losada. No answer made the angel, but her face dimmed with the mists of pity. Then, methought that from mine eyes, wherein ambition's torch burned with its latest and most ardent flame, lashed forth 2 level beams of straitened light, beneath whose fulgent fires the laurel crown twisted and curled, as when the Syrian star withers the ripening corn, and one pale leaf fell on my brow, and I leapt up and felt the mighty pulse of fame. Big stretch. and heard and heard far off the sound of many nations praising me. One fiery colored moment of great life, and then how barren was the nation's praise, how vain the trump of glory, bitter thorns were in that laurel leaf whose toothed barbs burned and bit deep, till fire and red flame seemed to feed full upon my brain and make the garden a bare desert. With wild hands I strove to tear it from my bleeding brow, but all in vain, and with a dolorous cry that paled the lingering stars before their time, I waked at last and saw the timorous dawn peer with grey face into my darkened room, and would have deemed it a mere idle dream but for this restless pain that gnaws my heart and the red wounds of thorns upon my brow. Interesting. And then it's an indexee of all of the various prose, names, etc., etc. All right, everyone, that was the final page of the poetical work of Oscar Wilde. Switch that over here. So, takeaway from reading this. At first, like the first session of reading this book. Hi, Zuck. Your timing is a bit off, my friend. I have been reading for 3.5 hours, and I am spent. But the takeaway from reading this poetry, like the earlier part of the poetry, I don't know if it's in chronological order. I think it was grouped by style of prose rather than the time in which he wrote it. So it's hard to tell. Take care of myself or murder. Okay, that's all noted. I think like the earlier part of the book, I was so angry. Like to go from the picture of Dorian Gray to reading the poetry at the beginning of the book, it just felt so lifeless by comparison. It's gotten better through the course of the whole book of poetry. But the earlier parts of the book have this feel to them with the way that they are written. They remind me of like poetry one would have written for an assignment for school. Like your heart isn't in it. You didn't write the poetry for yourself. You wrote it because someone gave you a prompt or told you needed to write something. Yeah. But like I said, as over the course of reading the poetry through the book, it softened. Mommy? It flowed. Mommy? Mommy? Sorry. Hey Mo, welcome in. So the poetry softened to a point that brought back that rich, verdant, verbose, beautiful poetry that he
Hydrate or dihydrate.
Aw, thanks Mo. Thanks for the resub. You're dope. And you're very welcome, Vivikinta. I hope you enjoy the emotes. There's some cute ones. But yeah, I think through the progress of reading through the poetry, you can really see where he kind of let go of the reins a little bit, or maybe had someone else like, write whatever you want. And then he felt more inclined to write the way that he writes. You're not. Hardly, Mo, not at all. We're just kind of in the after. We finished the book today. So, I don't know. I think Oscar Wilde was a beautiful, well-read lover of all things beautiful and written and painted and drama, and a true aesthete, which for those of you not familiar with the word that I'm saying, AES, there we go. This is the word. A person who has or professes to have a refined sensitivity towards the beauty of art or nature. Less so this definition, but the second one. A person who affects great love of art, music, poetry, and indifference to practical matters. I somewhat self-identify as an aesthete. I love beautiful things. But I love things in nature that are beautiful, like man-made, organic, natural. A spider's web is beautiful. A poem, you know, the curve of the line on, you know, a painting. You know, like there's these very subtle things that can be beautiful just for witnessing them. The warmth of the sun on your face as it's fading over the horizon, you know, it's like there's just things you experience in life that are just inherently beautiful. Anyway, we have finished. Let's find somebody lovely to go visit. Who's up? Who do we got? Who are we cooking with? Tell me something good.
Sorry. Mommy? Sorry.
You have a suggestion, do you? Would I happen to know this particular suggestion? Would it be a no, do I? Yeah, I thought that would be really cool to go into them. Yeah, I'm very much interested. I was thinking about it. I wasn't sure if she would still be streaming when I finished today, so that works out. So everyone, we're gonna go ahead and write something, I don't know, prosaic perhaps. Oscar is dead, long live the queen. Let's see, what are we rating? What's our rate message? I started reading like almost 4 hours ago, Mo. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be on stream with Sino the Crocodile tomorrow. He was here earlier. I know you have to work and, you know, take care of your lady and work hard, do good things. Let's see. Completed the poetical works of Oscar Wilde. I know, Mo. So I'll be reading earlier tomorrow. Saturday I will be streaming later, because that's a big collab, Core Keeper collab on Saturday. I'm also helping out with in the morning when I get up, I'm going to be helping out with a Minecraft Gamers Outreach with Jake Creates, I believe is his name. Can I get an exclamation point for Jake Creates? Let me grab his info here. He's doing a big get the info. I forget if there is Jake Creates stuff here. That is the name. That is how to spell it. Also, exclamation point, Jake Creates stuff.
You guys are gonna get a Nerf gun eventually, right? So, I mean, that was scary.
There we go. Okay. That was interesting, but we're here. All right. So like I said, he's doing a Minecraft server slash gamers outreach donathon on Saturday, and I'm going to be doing that in the morning, and then hanging out with Tybo and the homies from Underrealm on Saturday afternoon. So anyway, here is completed the poetical works of Oscar Wilde. Vexing raid. Yes, yes, works for me. Beep beep. And a raid emote at the end for flavor. Copy pasta. Chat. If you guys would grab the raid message, we've completed the poetical works of Oscar Wilde, Vexing Raid, and we're gonna go bother Tybo, who is currently making Tiny Draculina from Gen 1, and just got started on recreating her in the content house. Okay, let's go bother Tybo. Alright, be sure to grab your raid message. I appreciate everyone sticking around today for an epic reading. I am spent and I am starving as per usual, so I'm probably going to go grab something to eat after I put you into the lovely hands of Tybo. You are very welcome, Fallen. Yeah. Alright. Ali. Well, here we go. Yep, push the buttons. All the buttons.